We are live.
Very good. Okay. Very good. Welcome, everybody, to Sierra Madre's Planning Commission meeting of November 18th. We will start with roll call.
Chair Pevsner.
Here.
Vice Chair Dennison.
Here.
Commissioners Dellis.
Here.
Hutt.
Here.
And Spears.
Present.
Excellent. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Good. Next, we'll do on the approval of, move to the approval of the agenda.
I move we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Approval of the minutes of November 3rd and 4th.
I have a correction or
Go ahead.
enhancement.
Okay.
Starting at line 141.
On which series of minutes? November 3rd or 4th?
Oh, the 4th.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Debbie.
Starting with line 141. I don't think it really captured the couple points I was making. So, do you want me to read it out loud or just give it to you? Or
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Commissioner Dallas noted that the development layout will pull traffic to Sunnyside because it is an underutilized artery. She further noted that the east-west streets in the development layout are inconsistent with the rest of the city in that the properties are all through lots and don't back up to each other, like the blocks elsewhere in town. Backing the lots up to each other would allow the streets to be reduced by half, allowing for a wider east-west street along the park, which could provide much-needed parking on each side of the street at the park.
Do you want to give a copy to?
Yeah.
Sure. Oops, sorry. Very good. All right. There you go. Pass that down to Jim.
I move we accept both sets of minutes with the proposed edits.
Second.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Move on to council liaison report. Councilman Parkhurst.
Nothing to report.
Oh. Moving right along. Great.
I need to take a break.
Go ahead.
The city attorney is reporting all he's hearing is hold music.
Oh. Time out for technical difficulties.
So we do have 3 people conferencing into this meeting today, 2 consultants as well as our city attorney.
Okay.
And that's who we're trying to get back online.
Sure.
Okay.
We're good?
We're good to go.
Moving right along. Okay. Excellent. So this is a time, next element is community input. This is a time for something that's not on tonight's agenda to speak about. I trust most everybody here is for tonight's agenda. So under the normal rules, we allow people 5 minutes to speak on something not on the agenda. If anybody has anything I'd like them to come up, please do that. I also want to make a reminder just at this time that if you're going to make an announcement of any kind, please fill out one of the speaker cards so we know who you are and turn it in up to the front here or to, Jen, okay? I appreciate it. Anyone want to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda? Terrific, okay, that's good. So then we'll move on to the public hearing, congressional use permit amendment 1219, addendum to the mitigated negative declaration to update the Alverno Heights Academy Master Plan. And is that just a card? Okay. And there's going to be a presentation, but I'm going to also probably, due to the crowd here, limit the public comments to 3 minutes, which I would appreciate staying under, just because there's such a crowd, and we have 2 presentations. All right. First one's going to be.
Vice staff. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, very good.
So I just wanted to take this time to reference, we do have the applicant Julia Fanara, AHA, head of school, and also Ken Farsine, who is the president of the Board of Trustees for Alverno Heights Academy. We have a number of consultants participating this evening. They're here to answer questions. So we have Stacy Nesbitt with GGA Architects who prepared the master plan. We have Indy Savatala who prepared the acoustics analysis. He's with CSDA Design Group. We have Kurt Penderson in the audience with RKA Engineering. Greg Applegate, who is an arborist, and he's with Arborgate Consulting. Carrie Chastain and Marie Campbell are with Staphos Environmental, who prepared the environmental documentation. They were the lead consultants. And also the Cultural Resources Report. We have William Zimmerman with WGZE Engineering, and he's online, as well as Indy, I forgot to mention, is also conferencing in this evening. So just to give you a quick overview of the presentation, I will be giving you a very quick summary regarding components of the proposed master plan update, the summary of the conditional use permit and master plan findings all grouped together as one. When I put those all together originally, I had 12 slides. I don't think we wanted to go through every one of those. Also provide a summary of key environmental studies, alternatives, and recommendation. I will then hand the presentation over to the project design team representatives. Julia Fanara will make an introductory statement. Ken Farfsine will continue the presentation and then hand it over to Stacy Nesbitt. So the campus was established and the application for a master plan was created back in 1959 pursuant to Resolution 1642, which allowed the school to occupy the property. And the city's general plan allows for the expansion of existing institutional sites, provided that a comprehensive master plan is approved pursuant to Objective L41.2. And a subsequent CUP amendment was approved back in July 7th, 2011 by the Planning Commission, and that resolution number was 11-10. So in this instance, what we are doing is we're amending the original CUP. The original CUP has, the number stays the same, but the resolution numbers supersede, and that's what we would be referencing and changing. See, the Alverno Heights Academy now is requesting that the Planning Commission consider the request for a conditional use permit amendment and an addendum to the mitigated negative declaration to update the campus master plan. So the project is located at 200 North Michelenda Avenue. The campus encompasses 12.10 acres, located on the western boundary of the city adjoining East Pasadena. The location of the campus is bound by West Grandview Avenue to the north, West Highland Avenue to the south, West Highland Avenue to the west, and Wilson Street to the east. The zoning and land use designations are both institutional, and the property is surrounded by low residential uses on three sides. The proposed upper campus improvements generally remain the same pursuant to the 2011 master plan. There are a number of small modifications, however, to the upper campus. The first one is located here, which is the 400 square foot chapel, and it's returning to its former use as a garage storage building. Also located here is the caretaker cottage, and that's going to be converted to new flexible classroom space. There's also going to be a small addition of 1,200 square feet to the Visual Performing Arts building. There's also a 1,915 square foot building in this location that's going to be demolished, and a new faculty parking accommodating 31 spaces will be provided. The adaptive reuse of the villa for the school's business office and chapel and faculty lounge and student activities will continue to take place at the villa. And there's also going to be a new fire truck access and hammerhead turnaround provided at this location that could be accessed from Wilson Avenue. And also the master plan is preserving the curved road for a new internal drop-off zone between the historic villa and the new lower school. There's also additional parking here, and the 3 historic gates will remain. If we focus in now at the lower school, highlighted in blue are the new proposed campus buildings, approximately 25,000 square feet, a little bit less. The elementary school is located in this larger component. It's approximately 20,000 square feet, partial 3-story elementary building. We do have a condition of approval that the building should meet the height requirements and at 2 stories and working with grade. That's something, if the master plan is approved, would be considered by the Planning Commission at a later time for a design review application. The other building is a 2,000 square foot single-story administrative office building that's going to be for faculty purposes. And right here is the 3,000 square foot single-story middle school. There are 2 athletic facilities proposed for the lower school, a 60-foot by 70-foot playground and a 100-foot by 70-foot sports court. The master plan would conform with the permitted maximum enrollment to 400 students per the 2011 master plan. A couple of massing studies were prepared by the architectural team. This is a view from Michelenda Avenue looking northeast, that's the top image, and a view from West Highland Avenue looking north. The one on Highland Avenue, the building, the massing model is located right there. Conceptual visual simulations of possible architecture that could be implemented. Of course, architectural design should be differentiated between the historic villa, and I believe it should also reference some key elements of the mid-century modern existing school buildings as well. A couple of proposed sectional studies. This is looking at section A, so it's cutting through. This is Highland Avenue, cutting through the center of the lower school buildings. You see a portion of the lower school building in the background, and then the multi-purpose building. On the bottom, this is Michelenda Avenue, again cutting through the building. Here you see the multi-purpose building in the background, the administrative building and the middle school, and then the historic villa. A summary of the CEQA analysis that was undertaken determined that the facts upon which the findings were based in the 2011 initial study, mitigated negative declaration for the Alverno Heights Academy Master Plan improvements, remain unchanged. The results of the 2021 refined project would not create new or substantially more adverse impacts, substantial changes in circumstances, and or new information of substantial importance, such that the findings of the certified 2011 IS-MND would continue to apply. All of the 18 mitigation measures involving the 2011 approved project would be applicable to the 2021 refined project. A quick overview of some of the studies, and then we'll focus in a little bit more detail on a couple. The noise levels were determined from school operations were estimated not to exceed any of the existing ambient noise levels at nearby residential receivers, and will remain consistent with the project approvals of mitigation measure 13. The facts upon which the findings were based, specific to wildfire, remain unchanged. The tree preservation report determined that there are 13 oak trees within the designated area, all of which are inadequate to good health, but have various structural defects. Large specimen trees are notable and worthy of special care and protection, including the Borton Bay fig, Queensland quarry, and an Indian laurel. The tree preservation report recommends avoiding impact of the protected oaks and unique specimen trees to remain, and locating new parking facilities away from the oaks and specimen trees, and removal of the 2 oaks as proposed should be mitigated according to city guidelines. A cultural resources technical report was prepared in 2021 by Saphos Environmental, and they utilized the baseline of the report from the 2011 master plan, inclusive of the 2011 initial study and mitigated negative declaration. A technical report was prepared to determine impacts to the villa, which determined that there is less than significant impact. There are also 4 new additional mitigation measures have been added to the 2021 mitigation monitoring program involving cultural resources. In response to consultation with the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians, the Kiss Nation, and the tribal representatives indicated that there is a possibility of encountering tribal cultural resources on the site due to soil disturbance. There is a change sheet presented at the dais from Saphos Environmental, letting you know that we're going to include that additional mitigation. It's presently not in the mitigation monitor since we received this change sheet yesterday. So diving in a little bit in more detail in terms of traffic analysis, field counts for turning movements were collected in March 2020 by the Planning Center. Since then, that analysis has been updated to assess existing 2020 traffic conditions. Physical traffic counts were not conducted, but what was utilized was an ambient growth factor of 0.5% per year over a 10-year period for morning peak hour traffic, which is would generate the greater amount of traffic in the morning. And the synchro model, it's basically a traffic simulation, determined that the expanded school will result in no significant traffic impact at those study intersections. A traffic noise analysis was also prepared, and the traffic utilizing the same 0.5% per year accounts to a total traffic volume of approximately 8%. And this accounts for a composite noise level increase of less than 1 decibel. And it's indicating that the current condition of the 2021 master plan update with implementation of the updated enrollment condition will actually decrease the total daily trips by 96. So that represents a decrease of approximately 12%. The change in vehicle trips associated with AM drop-off and PM pickup is indicated to be marginal, less than 3% change due to change in enrollment. And since the project-generated trips due to the master plan update will decrease due to the change of enrollment, the proposed master plan update is not expected to induce a considerable change of traffic noise around the overall project area. So we're going to look at some of the noise source analysis findings. So in this instance, in this graph, it's showing noise distribution patterns and its noise levels from school operations, and they're estimated not to exceed any of the existing ambient noise levels at nearby residential receivers, and will remain consistent with the project approvals of the 2011 ISMND. These are noise contour maps. This is existing conditions or existing use of the campus, and you can see the noise distribution with the purple being at 40 decibels, less than 40 decibels, and then increasing from a darker green to a lighter green to yellow, orange, and red, all the way up to a magenta. And you can see the noise distributions here, existing conditions. We go to the next map with the proposed lower school, and you see the concentration of noise is still kept within school parameters adjacent to the building. And then the noise analysis also looked at the athletic event noise, and you can see there's a little bit greater influence in terms of the contour distribution here. This is a concept landscape plan for the lower school. There is a proposal to include additional landscaping along the lower school building and also throughout the project and adjacent to the curved road. So the CUP and master plan finding summary, which includes the burden of proof consistency with the general plan, Master plan findings, modification to development standards. I'll go through these fairly quickly. The proposed project is consistent with the general plan, specifically Objective L36, which provides for the development of private institutional uses in areas where institutional uses currently exist, and ensure that they are compatible with and complement adjacent land uses. Mitigation measures drafted and imposed conditions of approval also protect the surrounding adjacent properties, including limits on enrollment and use of school facilities. The proposed use is adequate in size, situated in a 12.10 acre site. The master plan preserves significant open space with over 6 acres or 50% of the campus dedicated to open space and recreation. Parking is accessible from Michelenda Avenue and Wilson Street with egress for lower school drop-off point from Highland Avenue. The master plan will decrease traffic on Highland Avenue, Wilson Street, and Grandview due to change in school enrollment. The master plan exceeds the city's parking codes. Pedestrian vehicular entrances to the Alverno campus will be maintained, and updated perimeter landscaping will improve the pedestrian character surrounding Alverno campus. The villa will continue to be preserved as a major historic resource for the city and Alverno, including preservation of the villa's 3 historic gates, the caretaker's home, and the former garage stable. The athletic field continues to be accessible and used by residents of the surrounding community, and the concept architecture for the new buildings will be differentiated from the villa's materials and design. A project condition is imposed that as each phase of development is implemented, the project and property owner shall submit plans for conformity review with the approved master plan, the general plan objectives, and zoning standards. And the director or his or her designee may refer those plans to the Planning Commission at his or her discretion, depending upon the scope and size of the project. The alternatives before the Planning Commission: the Commission can approve the request, approve with modifications, continue consideration of Resolution 21-9 to a date certain, providing staff and the applicant with direction, or deny the resolution. The recommendation is to approve conditional use permit amendment, Resolution 11-10, amended by Resolution 21-19, an addendum to the Mitigated Negative Declaration and Monitoring Program to update the Alverno Heights Academy Master Plan to allow the construction of permanent classrooms to accommodate transitional kindergarten to 8th grade instruction, and other campus improvements pursuant to Planning Commission Resolution 21-19. That concludes my component of the presentation. There'll be a lot more detail if we want to proceed with the presentation by the applicants at this time.
Great, thank you, Vin.
If we have questions
Yeah, go ahead.
on that part of it.
Sure, if you have a
So,
question at this juncture. Without too much detail, because they're going to do a presentation, but go ahead, Tom.
Okay, well, we can wait if you'd rather.
No, if you think it's pertinent at this time, I'll leave it up to your discretion.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't we queue up the other PowerPoint presentation? Esteban and Julia, do you want to come up and have opening remarks? Thank you. Why don't you step back here?
Good evening. My name is Julia Finara, and I am the proud head of Alverno Heights Academy. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Chair William Pevsner and the entire Planning Commission, Planning Director Vincent Gonzalez, for welcoming us this evening and giving us the opportunity to present our amendment to the 2011 Master Plan. I understand that everyone here tonight has a vested interest in this amendment. So on behalf of Alverno, I do appreciate you giving us all the opportunity to present our plan in this public forum. Alverno Heights Academy is a progressive Catholic TK through 12 school. The lower school is a vibrant co-ed TK lower school, with the upper school as a college preparatory 9 through 12 school for girls. Alverno Heights Academy was opened as a high school for girls in 1960. The school was started by the Sisters of St. Francis to serve the Catholic girls of middle class and immigrant families throughout the San Gabriel Valley. In 1964, Alverno graduated its very first class. We continued as an all-girls Catholic school, even though we had some hard times. In the 80s with the change of ownership, in the 90s with LaSalle going co-ed, and then again with the recession in 2008. In 2011, we were able to finally get our master plan approved. We have completed a portion of that plan, including the beautification of Michelinda, as well as our athletic field. Much like LaSalle, that changed from a small all-boys school to a large co-ed school, Alverno has had to change as well. We are much more inclusive. However, we are still Catholic with Catholic traditions and celebrations. In 2020, we added the co-ed TK lower school, remaining an all-girls high school. We were blessed to have an enrollment of 210 students in the lower school for our inaugural year, even though we were in a pandemic. The city approved 3 modular classrooms to be placed on the footprint of our future multi-purpose building in order to house our new school. The modulars were up and ready to go by August 2020. We were able to use some of our classrooms in the upper school. We were required to have a preliminary plan to the city by July 30th, 2021. This plan is the one that we will present to you this evening. Before I hand this microphone over to Mr. Ken Farzing, our Board of Trustees Chair and President, who will make the presentation for Alverno, I would like to take this opportunity to make a statement to our neighbors. Alverno does want to be a good neighbor. We intend to listen to your concerns and suggestions with an open mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Honorable Chair, members of the Commission, and also staff, and we're pleased to be here tonight to present in some detail the master plan amendment that we've prepared. Some of the slides Vincent has covered, so I'll basically go through those very quickly. But I wanted to put a bit of context where we are tonight. Is Julia had talked about the approval of the modular classrooms for the lower school. In that approval, the city requested that the school process an amendment to the master plan for new permanent buildings. And the city originally requested that the master plan amendment be filed with the city within 1 year of the approval of the modulars. So we began in earnest our planning effort. However, Los Angeles County Health Department closed all public and private schools to in-person learning. This then delayed the environmental special studies, and the city agreed to delaying the master plan amendment. And at that point in time, we wanted to wait till the school could reopen and we could get as many students on campus to approximate the master plan impacts. So again, this has been covered by Julia, and again, Vincent indicated that we're not increasing enrollment. We're going to stay at the 400 students. Now I won't spend a lot of time with these design principles, but when you're looking at the site plan for the lower school, one of the major features is the preservation of the large Morton Bay fig tree, and we'll talk about that in a second. These slides I'll just go through. They're part of your presentation packages. They show the areas to be amended, primarily the northeast and southwest portions of the campus. Again, I won't belabor these in detail, but just you have them available for information and reference. That's the lower school campus there. Now, in terms of parking, the analysis demonstrates that Alverno is currently overparked, and at build-out, it will meet the city's parking requirements. we put together a parking phasing plan, and it's designed that each phase will meet the city's parking code. And as Vincent indicated, the parking plans would be reviewed and required at each phase to ensure that the code is being complied with. These next slides talk about traffic. Now, the traffic and circulation concept implements the 2020 approvals for the lower school modular classrooms. We had prepared a traffic report in 2020 to look at the addition of the modulars and the lower school. Now, the concept separated out the upper and lower school traffic, and it was done for several reasons, including safety. The concept elongates the drop-off and pickup area for the lower school, and it takes advantage of the existing driveways that are on Michelinda, Highland, and Wilson to spread out the traffic. The 2011 plans require that the school install a second drive on Michelinda, which is included in the amendment. Vincent had shown some of this. Now, the 2020 study was based on traffic counts taken in 2011 with that 0.5% annual growth factor. The adjusted traffic counts were modeled to determine the estimated impacts on surrounding streets and intersections, and the consultant could not rely on actual traffic counts since the school had been closed to in-person learning due to the pandemic. Now, the chart illustrates that the amendment does not change the level of service of any of the intersections that serve the school. And then the graphic on the left illustrates predicted traffic counts on Wilson Street at the school's entry. Now, we felt it was prudent to actually do some traffic counts because the school has returned to almost a normal enrollment. So we asked for traffic counts to be conducted on November 9th, about 2 weeks ago. And we wanted to verify the accuracy of the 2020 model. The counts consisted of morning and afternoon peak times, as well as 24-hour traffic counts. So again, because the 2020 model study relied on modeling, we couldn't really, in 2020, take a look at what the real impacts would be. We had to depend on models. So the 2020 model, for an example, estimated 85 vehicles would enter at the morning peak on the Wilson Avenue entrance to the school. The November 9th traffic counts were 89 vehicles entering the school at that AM peak. So very close in the model. It basically calibrated the model. Now, the 24-hour count on Wilson is 486 vehicles, and that's a 24-hour count. That's a level of service A. 3,000 ADT basically is your upper limit for level of service A on residential streets. Now, the traffic model also estimated 130 vehicles would enter the school at the morning peak on Michelinda, and the November count basically revealed 105 vehicles entering the school during that same peak period. Now, some vehicles entering the school are from Sierra Madre residents. They would be parents of students and Averno staff who live in Sierra Madre. And one of the things is important to recognize is that the amendment basically reduces traffic by 93 vehicles on average per day from what was approved in 2011 in the master plan, when it was essentially an all high school, all girls high school. And that's due to the fact, obviously, the lower school children are driven to school versus having students drive themselves. I think it's important also to note that if Wilson consisted of homes on the west side of the street, in other words, if the school were not there, the homes would generate more ADT than the school does. The other area we wanted to talk a little bit about is our tree protection. You know, Alverno is very proud of its stewardship of protected significant trees and other trees on the campus. We're also proud that with the amendment, the campus will consist of 57%, open space. Now, those of you involved in education know that's an unbelievably high number. If you take a look at the schools in the local area, you know, I attended Don Benito, and it was basically a lot of paving, and still is. The tree survey, again, I mentioned that the Morton Bay fig is the most significant tree in the planning area, and we really want it to be the main focal point of the lower school campus. There is a radius setback of 120 feet, which is planned around the trunk of the tree where building foundations cannot encroach. We could, I guess, be here today asking to remove this tree so we could actually expand and build more two-story classrooms instead of adding a three-story component. However, we believe that the tree is a legacy from the Barlow family. It's important not only to the campus, but we believe it's important to the community, and we really want to work to preserve that tree. Now, basically the survey conducted, there are 10 coast live oaks located in the lower campus planning area. 5 of the oaks will not be impacted by construction. 3 smaller oaks are possible candidates for preservation and relocation. You can see those are the ones that are labeled in brown at the bottom near Highland. And 2 trees would be removed for the TK and kindergarten classrooms. Those are the one in the dark green. However, immediately in that area, you can see there's a stand of oak trees that the school is going to preserve as part of the lower school campus. A little bit about the grading. I think when you've walked that area that the grades in some places exceed over 5%, and that's complicated our grading design. The lower school grading plan's designed around protecting the root zone of the Morton Bay fig tree. That became our control point. But what happens is it basically results in some flat pads, and the new construction is also required to meet ADA requirements, which also flattens out portions of the site as well. So grading is very tricky on the site, and it's an important consideration in our request to vary from the height requirements. The grading plan for the faculty parking lot takes advantage of the fact that the area has been previously graded for the business office. And there's drive lanes and parking lot up in that area. So there's the lower school grading design. Again, it works around the Morton Bay fig tree, which is right in the middle of the campus. I think there we go, right in this area. There's actually 2 exhibits on this, and it's basically the grading plan that shows the fire access. There's also a fire hydrant that will be installed in that area as well, which would be just immediately north of the administration building, at the new administration building for the lower school. And then the other illustration is a grading for the faculty parking lot, which is between the existing performing arts building and our main classroom building. It's kind of tucked away in the back of the campus there. Now, preservation of Alverno's historic resources has been a major goal dating back to the purchase of the property in 1942 by the Sisters of St. Francis. Sophos Environmental evaluated the potential impacts of new construction on the villa and other resources, and they've concluded that the proposed lower school will not impact the villa. This is also the same for the new art room addition and also the caretaker house project. Now, with noise, the city staff required the completion of a noise analysis with this latest amendment. There had been a previous noise study completed by the Planning Center in 2011. CSDA Design Group was retained to complete the new noise study, and they have significant experience in measuring and modeling noise impacts from schools. Vincent has showed some of these drawings, but I'll basically go through a bit of them. The study examined 4 noise sources from the school and was conducted in May of this year when the school was permitted to return to full in-person use. And the study took place over 3 days, again in May. Now, during the 3-day study, CSDA measured the overall noise levels in the neighborhood, including noises from traffic, residences, and the school. This established a baseline ambient noise level when the school was in session and not in session. Now, this exhibit we're looking at illustrates where the noise monitoring equipment was placed, both in 2011 and also most recently in 2021. So again, CSDA tried to approximate so we could do some comparisons, and they did about the best they could to get them close. Now, the other thing CSD asked us to look at is the school schedule to find days where the school enrollment and activities were more normal. Now, obviously, some students decided to take advantage of remote learning. This slide shows the number of students at the school during the study and for the 3 days. It also includes a description of the outdoor activities that were going on. So the highest number was 305 students on campus. We're currently at about 370 kids on campus. Now, there were several outdoor athletic events during the noise study, including volleyball practices and games, softball practices and games in various locations. This is a picture of volleyball that's occurring on the Michelinda parking lot area. Now, there's some confusion about the noise from school activities and private events held in the villa. The private events are regulated under separate temporary use permit, TUP, and the noise from these events was measured by the Planning Center study. As for the school's events, Alverno uses a staggered schedule which limits the number of students at any one time for outdoor events. Now, this slide illustrates some of the noise modeling scenarios, the current noise levels and noise levels with the proposed new buildings. Vincent had shown this illustration, the contour map. It illustrates the noise levels in decibels. The green areas comply with the noise ordinance, and the areas in red are where the noise is generated from, which is basically internal to the school. So this is lunchtime noise modeling. These are some of the assumptions and basically that went into the noise study itself, so you can take a look at them. CSDA started by measuring existing noise levels to really calibrate their model. This slide basically looks at the contours of the noises with the new buildings that would be added on the campus. Again, this is lunchtime. And you can see the noise levels are significantly reduced on Michelinda. And that's obviously because of the construction of the new classrooms on Michelinda, and the activities would be internal to the courtyard. And the noise levels do not exceed the ordinance requirements. And on Highland, you can see the green area there. These are the assumptions that were used in the model. The noise levels do not exceed the ordinance requirements when the model is adjusted to include even 220 students that are outside and using activities. Again, the buildings act as a noise shield. This is after-school noise modeling. We wanted you to see these contours. The Michelinda area, where basically we have the lower school activities there now until we get constructed our permanent play areas, and then also the existing athletic field. Now, this is basically, this could, the green areas basically show that there's really not a violation of the noise ordinance. Obviously, much more, much more widespread. Now, this slide contains the results of noise modeling, and it can be found in Table 8 of the CSDA noise study. CSDA analyzed doubling the outdoor activities to 280 students and spectators and found that the noise levels are still within the noise ordinance. You can see that 280 number on the right there. So just some quick conclusions. I think you all know elementary, middle, and high schools all generate noises that can be noticed by nearby residents. No doubt about that. The question becomes if a school's activities and operations violate the noise ordinance. The CSDA study indicates that the athletic events and outdoor activities are estimated to comply with the existing noise ordinance. Also, normal school operations are not expected to exceed the existing neighborhood ambient noise levels and do comply with the noise ordinance. Just quickly on villa preservation, I think you know the villa is central to life at Alverno. Its upkeep and maintenance is expensive. The villa has been used for many purposes since it was purchased by the Sisters of St. Francis. The amendment would return the school's chapel to its former location in the villa and convert some of the existing rooms for our business office. There'd be other uses for the faculty lounge, and the students have always used the villa. The villa has a long history of filming, going back to 1964, and that's regulated by citywide ordinances. And then private events, again, are regulated under the TUP, which is granted by the City Council. I'd like to now introduce Stacy Nesbitt from GGA, and Stacy's going to walk through some of the architectural designs for you, and then I'll conclude with a discussion of the phasing. You're welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners and Director Gonzalez. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the design, and but many of the items have already been covered in the previous slides, so I'll try to move quickly. The design is featured around the Moreton Bay Fig. It is a highly prized and special tree to the campus. The buildings create a village courtyard theme. The villa's curved road, is also preserved, as are the historic gates at Highland and Michelinda and Wilson. The building's pads have been lowered around the villa to provide a sort of buffer to preserve the very special massing and stature of that building. The heights of those buildings are 1 story. The classroom building on number 6 is varied in height between 2 and 3 stories. The student body capacity with this amendment will not increase the current allowed student enrollment of 400. We are increasing the building square feet to 25,308 square feet. Most of that is classroom space, some office and support space. A 20% grossing factor was added. The existing campus, as you know, is blessed in quite a number of both the historic villa and a number of special mid-century architectural buildings of note. The current classroom buildings have 1 and 2 story mass and relate to the varying sloping terrain across campus. This section, I think that Mr. Gonzalez showed earlier, it's a close-up showing the setback between Michelinda and the 2-story classroom building, setback of 20 feet. As it crosses, you can see the proposed multi-purpose building in the rear and the villa. Let me see if I can, the pointer, and the villa to the right. This is a cross-section going the other way, north-south, showing the setback of 80 feet from Highland. Oops, excuse me. And the 3-story component of the classroom building as the terrain slopes up towards the proposed multi-purpose building, which would be up here. This is a simplified section showing the massing of the classroom building. You can see again, the 3-story component, and about 2/3 of the building or 3/4 of the building would be a 2-story building. This view, taken from the southwest portion of campus looking northeast, would be your view as you drive up Michelinda. Again, looking at the building from the southeast from Highland through the buffer of trees. Some of the materials and features of the current buildings on campus are very special, including the smooth plaster, the exposed wood elements of the mid-century buildings, the simple forms, and the clear-story windows in the current classroom buildings. We played with these and looked at these carefully as we were thinking about our new buildings. Again, the smooth plaster finish of the villa and some of the very special outbuildings, the art and performing arts building on campus. And the mid-century buildings have their own special character, including the clear-story windows you can see in the classrooms, special deep overhangs, and exposed wood structure. Again, simple geometric forms of the mid-century buildings. We took these examples and thought about how a contemporary classroom building might serve the students of Alverno, and really wanted to introduce and integrate the landscape design for indoor and outdoor learning. This is just an example of other schools that we thought would inform the new buildings. Again, other classroom buildings showing a color palette of natural materials, exposed structure, and deep overhangs. Clear-story windows that harvest light for classrooms provide excellent opportunities for learning as well as safety for students. And the exposed structure that in the previous slides allow for this kind of really, really marvelous interior learning environments for students. The landscape concept takes most of its cues from the current campus, including the low, drought-tolerant and native planting. The current perimeter landscaping, although relatively lush, needs some trimming. There's quite a bit of trees that are I guess are not as lush as we'd like them to be, and so we propose to increase the screening along Michelindo using the olive trees that are found elsewhere on campus. Again, on Highland, the school's perimeter shows the planting and the screening that would screen the play courts from that street. And now Ken's going to come back and talk to you a little bit about phasing.
The phasing plan is divided into 9 areas, and I just want to make sure it's clear that it's contingent upon a robust capital campaign by the school. You know, it takes money to do all of this. There are some lower cost items, obviously relocating the existing chapel from where it is now to the villa. Those are low cost things. You get into a little more medium priced items when we're talking about the conversion of the caretaker's residence to the flexible classroom, or adding on the new art room to the visual and performing arts building. And then you get into more larger price buildings when we're starting to talk about the construction of the centralized faculty parking, the lower school sports courts and play areas. And then obviously as we get into construction of the lower campus and the multi-purpose building, those are million-dollar projects, multi-million-dollar projects. We had sent a letter to Vincent earlier in the week when we looked at the resolution, and we had some requests for clarification and modifications to Resolution 2219. On page 42, General Condition 2, we felt there was some confusion, and that may be more of a finding than it is a requirement, and we wanted to make sure that an additional conditional use permit is not envisioned by the city to actually construct the lower school campus. On page 44, there's a requirement that the school complete a seismic survey of our existing private school buildings constructed prior to 1986. Now, the state law in our reading applies to new construction on private schools, not existing buildings. So it's really unclear what the building official is looking for. There's a significant range in scoping these surveys, including the need for as-built plans, which neither the city nor the school have as-built plans of the existing campus, built in 1969. They've been lost a long time ago. So we basically need to create a whole new set of plans. There'd be geotechnical testing and reporting, and we just don't understand the purpose of this. So we're asking that that sentence in that condition, it's the first sentence, be eliminated. The other condition that we're confused about is the Public Works condition number 1. It says submit plans for the trimming, removal, and replacement of parkway trees and replacement of sidewalks on all sides of the surrounding property as part of the submittal of perimeter fencing and landscape improvements called for in the master plan. So let me that's a lot, there's a lot to unpack there, so let me kind of go through that. For sidewalk replacement, the Michelinda sidewalks were reconstructed by the city with a grant. That was basically done, maybe 15 years ago or 20 years ago. There's no street trees on Michelinda, and the sidewalks appear to be in very good shape. The granite pathway and landscaping on Grandview was installed by the school in 2012 as required by the city in the 2011 master plan. And I don't know if the commission's aware, but there's a major metropolitan water district pipeline underneath that area. It's an easement, and it runs all the way out to Hamilton Park. It runs from Laverne, from Live Oak Reservoir, through the foothill communities to Hamilton Park, where it supplies water to Pasadena. The Wilson Avenue sidewalks were replaced and repaired in 2019 with the construction of the athletic field, and there may be selected areas of Wilson and Highland that might need sidewalk grinding and replacement. Now, street trees, basically trim, remove, and replant. We've estimated removal costs at close to $100,000, and that does not include repairs to curbs, gutters, sidewalks. And we really can't estimate that until the trees would be removed and stumps are ground. You can see in this picture, the pine tree basically is growing over the curb. So it basically, you'd be taking the curb out in this location and taking the tree down. Now there's 8 pine trees on Wilson and 9 on Highland. And the street trees on Highland are further impacted by SCE lines, which are basically high voltage. So we're very concerned about getting the school's tree contractor up there to try to take care of these trees. Now when we look through the code, section 1220.070B7 of your code requires that a property owner trim low-hanging branches on the street and the sidewalk. I would imagine most Sierra Madre residents don't even know that code exists, but you're to go out in the street and do trimming up to 14 feet to make sure, like a truck driving down the street doesn't get damaged, and then you have to trim 8 feet above your sidewalk. We're certainly, as a school, we would certainly do that, but we're very concerned about this condition. We don't really understand what we're supposed to be doing. We've basically talked about additional perimeter landscaping. And we just want to point out that we believe we've implemented all the landscaping plans that have been approved by the city, and we've done it in a good faith way. We've also implemented additional landscaping on the campus. There was major perimeter landscaping and fencing installed in 2019 on Wilson and Highland, and in your staff report, it basically recognizes that that was a significant upgrade, a betterment to the project. We basically installed vinyl-coated chain link fencing of very high quality used in public schools along those perimeters. And we went all the way from Michelinda to Wilson and up Wilson all the way to Grandview. So it was an extra $100,000 in fencing for the project. And then additional perimeter landscaping was installed in 2020 on Michelinda with a modular classroom. So we've been trying to do our best to be good neighbors. Now, residents have requested additional landscaping on the Wilson perimeter adjacent to the athletic field. That's not something that we're opposed to. We can work with staff on additional perimeter plantings if there's vines on fencing, additional shrubs, hedges, whatever. If the residents want to block the view to the athletic field, if that's their desire, we'll do the best we can to do that. Now, there are some areas where we have gates where you obviously can't block a gate. And if there's a vehicle issue with visibility, we have to be careful with that as well. But we'll work with the city staff on that. The other thing we looked at in public works conditions is condition number 2, right below condition number 1, is to improve the Highland exit, and we are all on board with doing that. We really want to work with staff to improve the Highland exit. We will need to remove that one pine tree because it is in the way when you come out of the lower school and you're trying to look left. It's basically right there. You can't see around it. When that tree comes out, obviously we would be committed to reconstructing the sidewalk, the curbs, gutters. The drive apron dates back to the 1920s and really needs to be redone. So this is not a significant issue for the school. It's something we're committing to do. There's another condition further back, 47, which is water conservation. This has been an issue with the city utility department for a number of years because we're an old campus. We've got galvanized pipes that basically date back to the 1920s. And then in the 1960s, when the school was built, and we basically chase leaks. We're kind of a social security program for plumbers there. And the leaks may be under structures. So we're committed to making substantial progress to repair leaks, but we have a problem with repairing what's called all leaks within 1 year. We just think that's a little bit too nebulous of a condition. Again, we could make substantial progress, and the utility department can determine, looking at our how much water we're using, that we're making progress. Now, just in conclusion, Alverno really has been a valuable part of the community since 1959. And we really want to thank the Commission in advance for your consideration of our request. And we want to thank the city staff. I know Mr. Gonzalez has worked very hard on this project along with his staff and the other city staff. Now, we're a small school, but we believe Alverno is an asset to Sierra Madre and the surrounding communities. And we believe the amendment has been well designed, and we're doing our best to mitigate impacts. And Alverno fulfills a very important community need. Now, this is basically our prayer garden. You're looking at there by the villa. It's something special feature that we put in. And to us, it's a very special and spiritual place. And through our community service program with the students and the other activities, we believe Alverno continues to be committed to providing much needed amenities to Sierra Madre and the surrounding communities. And the approval of the master plan will further our mission for years to come. So that concludes our presentation.
Anybody want to ask any questions at this point? Tom?
Are we ready to ask for questions from the applicant?
Yes. Yeah.
You want to go? Go.
I did have some questions about, and maybe this is, who actually prepared this packet for us?
That was prepared by the architectural team. So the master plan was prepared by GGA, Gonzalez Goodall Architects.
Okay. So there's quite a few mentions in there of the city determining that Alverno was regulated under government codes prohibiting the denial of land use due to age or gender, and further protected under the U.S. Civil Rights Acts for religious land use. And so I was curious, and maybe the city attorney needs to weigh in on this for us, but Mr. City Attorney, I was curious as to why it was brought up so many times in the report and how it's to guide our findings here.
If you'd like, I can answer that. I don't know if anyone can hear me.
We can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so, yeah, that language wasn't drafted by us, so I didn't draft that language, but it shouldn't impact the city's determination here. That civil rights code section isn't implicated in the approval for you today.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to clarify one point in response to your question. GGA, in collaboration with Ken Farsine, the president of the Board of Trustees, prepared the master plan.
Okay. I was just clarifying that wasn't something that was put forth by the city, so
No,
questions or inconsistencies, we would direct to them.
yes.
Okay. One of the things that's, and this might, again, be a question for staff, and maybe I should have asked these earlier, but there's a list of conditions that are from the previous CUP. Were they included in our packet?
They are included in the attached resolution, yes.
In the attached resolution? The original CUP?
The original CUP is not included in your packet as a separate document. But basically, the conditions of approval are similar with some new alterations to them and additions.
Okay, so there's quite a few references to the previous list of conditions. Shouldn't we be seeing all of those conditions as part of this so that we can understand the full scope of what we're modifying?
Staff can provide that to you, yes.
Okay. Because I guess I'm having a hard time understanding what is already part of a CUP versus what would be new and what we're amending. So that would definitely be helpful for me. There were some comments in there, like the city also has access to the existing softball and soccer field on page 10. But then it says that the condition 6 prohibits the rental of the athletic field to groups not affiliated with Alverno. So I guess I was trying to understand what that means. The city also has access to the existing softball and soccer fields.
The city has a professional services agreement with Alverno. It's an older document that allows the city to utilize some of the buildings. When I first started working here back in 2015, there was an event, city-sponsored event that was held at the villa. From my recollection, that was the only one in the past 6 years that was conducted there. So we do have that ability to use the facilities. There's also not an agreement with the city, but I believe it was a condition that allows residents to access the athletic fields.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, there's also use by the field by the city of Sierra Madre, the city softball league or team, whatever it is. So, oh, the girls softball? Okay.
So the girls softball doesn't qualify as being affiliated with Alverno, like AYSO?
No, we don't. Well, again, in 2011, when we proposed the athletic field, we knew that first adults would want to use it, so we didn't want to allow adults, and we didn't want night lighting either. And we also didn't want AYSO to use it because essentially there's just so much need for soccer in the area. It would basically be run over. But we did basically agree that the city could use it. I don't believe the city soccer leagues do if you have a soccer league, but most cities have AYSO. So it's yeah. Did you want to answer?
The girls softball league's been using our field
Yeah,
for years.
the girls softball league's been there for a
Okay.
long time, even when the old field was there before 2011.
But the girls softball league, as I understand it, pulls from all of the surrounding areas, not just Sierra Madre. So
That I don't
it's not,
know.
That's
I don't
not
know
something
that.
that's specific to the Sierra Madre community as it was kind of portrayed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Thank you. So one of the circulation concept ideas was that faculty and staff would be stationed to facilitate the drop-off and pickup of students. And so I was curious, does that require additional staff so that you'll have people who are receiving the children in their classrooms as well as monitoring the drop-off and pickup?
So we have all of the staff in the lower school is monitoring the drop off and pick up of the lower school students. In the upper school lot on Wilson, we have anywhere from 3 to 5 different people. All of the administration is down there every morning. We have more recently been out on the streets, so trying to guide the traffic within the last couple of weeks.
So the teachers that are out there doing that collect the kids but don't take them to the classroom?
Yeah, they do. They hold the kids,
Okay. Okay,
the little ones.
Gotcha.
The high school girls walk themselves to the classroom.
yeah,
Okay.
I would hope. And then, Director Gonzalez, I did have a question. Generally in the residential zones, I guess I need a refresher course on this. When it comes to mitigating oak trees, I thought that the only way that people were allowed to remove oak trees is if the city works had determined for some reason that they were able to be removed, and that then there was a fee and a replacement number. And I saw that there's included in the report a replacement guideline in there.
Yes.
I didn't see the actual tree report that listed the diameter of the 2 trees that were being removed and how many trees would be mitigated by that. And I didn't understand if the fee structure applied in this type of situation. So could you refresh us on that?
So in this instance, we would actually have to have an application to proceed right that. Currently, it's presumed 2 trees to be removed. They would have to be assessed by the Public Works Department in coordination with the arborist report and the arborist to determine appropriate mitigation or payment and contribution of in lieu fee to plant trees elsewhere, either on campus or in the community.
Okay. And then I guess the arborist report that I saw was dated January of 2021. And in the arborist report, it stated that there were no trees contemplated for removal. And so I was curious as to whether or not the report needed to be updated now that there were plans to contemplate the report against.
We could look into that, and if we can direct that question also to the arborist who is
Okay.
here tonight to confirm.
All right. Do we want to ask the
Where is the
arborist that?
arborist? Yeah,
I believe that was listed as one of the experts.
come on up.
Hello, my name's Greg Applegate, I'm the arborist. If anybody requests me to update it with the new information about which trees are being removed, a couple of them were tentative, but once it's fixed, I'll go report on them, measure them, and do whatever you need.
Okay, so the report at the time that you generated the report didn't have the plans that are contemplated and have been shared tonight?
I was not, when I wrote the report, I was not aware that those would be removed.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, Bob?
I still had some. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
keep going, Tom.
I was just
Keep
trying-
going.
I took a lot of notes. There's a lot of paperwork to go through, so
I can't see with your mask on.
I'll go ahead and try to get through as many of these as I can.
Go ahead.
So on page 19, it said that the modular classrooms are within the proposed multi-purpose building, which is approved for 12,860 square feet. And I was curious as to what approved means for a multi-purpose building that I thought was being proposed newly for this.
So the temporary classroom buildings, we allowed through a pre-development review process with the Public Works Department, City Manager's Office, Fire Department, Police Department, Planning, Building and Safety, to proceed with the location of those temporary buildings at the footprint of the multi-purpose building. So that was the approval procedure that we used under prior administration to proceed with that concept, with the understanding that within 1 year, a master plan amendment and approval by the Planning Commission would have to commence.
So the approval was for the buildings, the temporary buildings that were put there, not for the multi-purpose building at 12,860 square feet.
No, the multi-purpose building is separate, still remains in place as part of the 2011 master plan for future build-out.
Just to follow up, the modulars are 12,000 something square feet right now?
No, no.
Oh.
That's the proposed multi-purpose building square footage.
But that was included in the 2011 CUP.
Yes.
And that's
Right.
that's why they're calling
Yeah.
it approved.
Yeah, that we did that in 2011. And that was, but because they didn't have plans for a lower school at that point. The lower school has only come up recently.
Right. And then I was trying to understand some of the math, because on one of the slides it said that the net new square footage is 21,000 square feet. And I was trying to understand if the 21,000 square foot was completely net new, or if it was, you take some of those buildings away and bring back some of the other ones. I was just trying to understand what the truly new square footage of that lower educational building was going to be.
I could, if I can ask Stacy to respond to that. I did notice there was a couple of different discrepancies, including the new presentation.
Yeah, the lower school, with the classroom buildings and the storage, support spaces, you're right, is a net of 21,000. It has nothing to do with the multi-purpose building. We added a grossing factor to that of 20%, which is fairly customary, so actually kind of on the low side. But we figure that's for wall thicknesses and, mechanical shafts and that sort of thing. And that brings the total gross area to 25,308 square feet. And that is on page 26 and 27 in the master plan.
So when you say the gross area,
The gross area is the net plus 20%.
okay. So that's just for that building, which
It's
is,
3 buildings together, right? It's the L-shaped classroom building, the small administrative building, and then the middle school 3 classroom building. Yeah,
okay.
That's just the lower school campus,
correct.
not the changeovers in the upper right-hand.
Has
upper.
nothing to do with the
Yeah.
the top, the northeast. It's all southwest. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question.
You want?
Sure. So, I've got some questions about the total number of students remains at 400, and that was with the 2011 master plan.
Right.
How many additional square feet of classroom were anticipated in the 2011 master plan?
The only additional classrooms that were anticipated were some small instructional spaces in a multipurpose building. For the most part, the existing campus was envisioned as being sufficient for the high school.
For 400 students?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so then,
Not for 400, sorry to clarify, not for 400 students. That's the total maximum allowable on campus?
Yes, well, our original approval in 1959 allowed the school to have 500 students, and in 2011, we voluntarily reduced that to 400 students. So that's in the 2011 CUP is the enrollment cap at 400.
But that's spread both across the high school and the lower campus?
That would be now, yes, but I think the question was
what was
more
it in
related to 2011.
It was for 400 high school students,
Right.
Right,
more or less in the existing buildings.
more or less, yep.
Okay, and then how many square feet are the existing modulars taking up?
The modulars are 3 buildings, there's 2 classrooms per building, and they're 1,200 square feet per building. So it's, help me with my math, it's 3,600 square feet.
Okay, so I'm really wondering what you're gonna do with 21,000 net square feet of classrooms and,
You-
administration space.
Yeah, you would be surprised. I mean, we worked with an internal committee of our educators, and also we had parents involved, and basically I can have Stacy come up and kind of walk through the space needs plan. But we have, 10 classrooms. The classrooms are a little bit larger now for elementary schools, and they're even larger than what our existing high school classrooms are. So, do you want to? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just so you realize, the middle school is currently up in the upper school. So those modulars are only being used for TK through 4. And so everybody else is up in the upper school, up in where the high school is,
Okay.
on one side of the campus. So they need their own
Yeah.
space.
Still not quite
I think
understanding.
the high-level math that she's looking at is if you assume half the kids are going to be in that lower campus, that every single kid is going to have a 10 by 10 square foot area based on 21,000 square feet at 200 students.
Oh, you're good at that.
I don't.
That's kind of the way I look at things.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, we had several educators and an architect on our building committee to advise us in the early stages of this. And the classroom sizes are based on California state standards, public school standards. A 960 square foot classroom is our state standard. And you'll see that on page 26, that classrooms 1 through 8, that's the first grade through the 8th grade, are all 960 square feet. When you get to when you go down to the kindergartners and the transitional kindergarten, they do get larger, because those kids actually need more space. They're smaller, but they do need more space. There's a lot of different activities that go on in those classrooms. They have their own restrooms sometimes. They need special hand washing stations, all kinds of stuff. Right? So those classrooms get boosted up to a state standard of about 1350 or 1,350 square feet. And that's all in the document there. Oops, excuse me. And then some of the specialized classrooms, we do have some additional space associated with the science labs and art classrooms. They do need their own storage and prep areas, so those do get larger as well. But these are all these are actually fairly conservative, because every square foot is are dollars, and I know that we're going to be very tight. We're going to be very conservative with our space. So it's not like we're building Taj Mahal. We're actually, quite conservative when it comes to the area for learning. And then the administration space is only 2,000 square feet, and that includes like conference rooms, places for parents to come, and all of the other support spaces that schools need to do their work.
And if those temporary units are 600 square feet per classroom, as was earlier indicated, then they're 360 square feet per classroom below the state average.
They are very tight, Joanne. They're very tight. And they are temporary.
Okay, so how many classrooms will be in the new lower school? They're just
It's
every day in the classrooms.
right. Every grade has one classroom, and then there's a supplemental. There's a science classroom, an art classroom, a music classroom, and like a robotics or a technology
If you look at page 26.
center.
It's right there? Okay.
Did I get it all? Plus some PE changing rooms.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Is the field open to the public during non-school hours?
No.
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 Okay. Because I was trying to understand, it said that the school provides much-needed cultural, recreation, and open space in an area of the community not served by public parks and open space. And I was trying to
If they can't get in, what does it?
reconcile those two statements.
Our neighbors, some of our neighbors do use the school for, some of their kids play there, or they come and they can walk their dogs.
But like if I was walking with my family, could I just walk onto the campus?
You would need
to
to
the-
let,
to
you
the
would need
field?
to let. But yeah, I mean, most of the, yeah, if you're a Sierra Madre resident, we don't let you have like a party there or anything, but if you're walking through and or the kids want to play on the grass, or, that happens. We do have
So the
that.
gates are unlocked most of the time that the kids aren't in session?
Most of the time, on a Saturday or a Sunday, if there's not an event going on, yes. If Miss Bertolini's on campus.
Okay. On page 24, it said that the modular classrooms capture rainwater and that harvesting has resulted in substantial water conservation on the campus. And so
There's a swale below that where it drains into,
and that water is,
goes into the ground, I guess.
Infiltrated.
Yeah, there's a percolation basin that's located south of the modulars. When we, the stormwater requirements have changed substantially within the last several years. There's low impact development standards. There's the SUSUMP standards, your NPDS permits. I mean, basically what's occurred is when we did the athletic field, we put major stormwater capture devices. We probably spent $300,000 to $500,000 basically building underground cisterns to capture water from about half the campus. I mean, if you basically divide the campus in half, everything flowing toward Wilson and the corner of Highland and Wilson is basically captured and is percolated into the athletic field. And when we came in with the modulars, it was a requirement by the city engineer that we do something very similar. So what we did is a series of swales that capture the water around the modulars, and then they work their way down into like a small settling pond area. We can, give you pictures of that if you'd like to see it.
I was just curious as to what substantial water
Well,
conservation.
I guess every gallon's substantial nowadays, in the drought, so that's our definition of substantial. And, when the rest of the campus develops, we're gonna have to follow those same guidelines. So there'll be additional stormwater capture and percolation devices that are installed for the lower campus and, the Mitchell-Linda parking area. All of that has to be basically captured so it doesn't run onto city streets. I mean, it's expensive, but it's a great idea. I mean, it helps increase your groundwater, here in Sierra Madre.
Thank you.
Sure. Oh, I did want to point out on the trees, there is a tree exhibit in your document there in the back. It's a tree preservation exhibit that we prepared, and the two trees that would be removed are 12-inch in diameter and 22-inch in diameter. So there's a tree preservation plan. It's the colored one that I showed you that showed the three trees being potentially relocated, two removed.
And those numbers don't coincide with the tree report. That was why I was confused.
Okay, well, I think they do, but, okay.
I think those are my questions for now, though I reserve the right to ask more.
Okay.
No, watch yourself. Peggy, good still, or you want some? Well, let's let Bob.
I have one question.
No, Peggy.
Go ahead.
The traffic pattern for the drop-off for the elementary school has them coming in the Mitchell-Linda gate, then coming out the Highland. Is it anticipated that the students, the drivers will turn presumably left on Mitchell-Linda at that point? Because you've got they're coming up Mitchell-Linda to drop off the kids, coming down through the campus, coming out Highland. They're basically crossing traffic patterns. So, and I think the idea is that instead of having the long line of cars along Mitchell-Linda, you're going to have them on campus.
Yeah, there's two driveways. Well, there's one existing driveway on Mitchell-Linda, It's undersized, it's difficult to get cars to go, in and out. So the master plan in 2011 planned an additional driveway south of that one. And essentially that would be an entry driveway only, and then the north driveway, basically the existing one, would turn into an exit, exit-only driveway. And I think, you're correct. Basically, the idea is to get as many cars on campus down the Villa Lane, and the drop-off for the lower school is about as far south as we can get. It's almost, adjacent to the new play court area is where the drop-off would be for TK through 8th grade. So we're trying to stack as many cars on the campus as possible, to make sure we clear off of Mitchell-Linda.
So that's why you didn't run it the other way.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and one other question. Traffic on Wilson seems to be a concern to quite a few neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you can't control everybody's temperament when they're driving. What if you just tried to direct that traffic out towards Mitchell-Linda? If they came in and you didn't have the high school traffic off of Wilson, and
Well,
only use those gates maybe on special occasions?
We do have an internal road that links the two sides of the campus, but our major concern has been we have a lot of young children, obviously the TK through maybe the 4th or 5th graders. You have to be very careful around the cars. That's why when they come in the morning, what the staff does is they basically have areas where they gather all the kids in their class, and they basically keep them in one location. They have to stay in this location until the traffic dies down and they can safely move them to, in this case, say they're moving to the modular classrooms. So, I mean, we're a little leery of opening that internal road in the campus, from a safety standpoint. We just have if you came in the morning and kind of watched the activity of the unloading, you'd probably see what we're concerned about is that, we don't really want to put a child at risk. So.
You want to put our children at risk?
Quiet, please.
Well, is it possible to add another gate or driveway and have a loop above the elementary loop that drops off the high school students off of Mitchell-Linda?
Well, the 2011 master plan had 2 drop-off lanes that were part of when the second driveway went in. So there was a plan. We still have that shown on the plan. So that's a possibility.
It might be worth considering because there's a lot of concern there. So, okay, thank you.
This side of the table.
I have a question for the applicant on their response letter, page 44. Your concern is that with the sentence, a survey or rate the seismic safety of existing private school buildings, and that's part of the ed code that you're going to comply with. And I understand that the as-built are not available to you, but when you talk about survey, you can do either structural or non-structural hazard mitigation for classrooms. And those classrooms were built in the 60s and they have giant windows.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you use as a to-do list in terms of upgrading your classrooms for the safety of the children? Do you have such a list?
Well, we've primarily focused on fire safety, life safety issues.
Okay.
The alarms and all of that.
But the code that you're being asked to comply with is seismic safety. And so I mean, things like coating the windows, those giant windows are going to become flying shards of glass in an earthquake. Coating the windows with a film that will keep them from breaking.
Mm-hmm.
You have chemistry lab on campus?
We do.
Are all the chemicals secured in such a way that during an earthquake they're not going to fall on the floor and eat a hole to China?
Right.
I mean, there are non-structural hazard mitigation efforts that you could look at, and that could be part of your survey.
Right, but
it would make your students safer.
Right.
And it would be a good faith effort on your part to address the seismic safety of your classrooms
Right.
and the safety of the children and staff.
Yeah, I don't think we're not opposed to that, but the condition doesn't say that. It's
Well,
very.
it says survey, and so.
That's not the.
I think you're interpreting it as a engineering survey, and that would be wonderful, because
Right.
I have no doubt that in the 60s, the building code has been modified many times since the 60s.
Right, I agree.
And you certainly would like to present to your parents that your schools are as safe or better than the local public schools.
I don't think we could commit to saying we're better than the public schools. We don't have unlimited resources, tax money available to us. I think that's an unfair standard, and that's why the state law exists. Again, if there's things we can do to make them safer, like you're talking about film on some of the windows and making sure the chemicals are secured, yeah, those are all things that aren't an issue. But our concern is this condition's unclear. The building official is not being clear of what they want. And one building official can interpret it your way, that they're looking for non-structural mitigation measures, and another building official 2 years from now, when this other one is gone, is going to say, no, that's not what it says. You've got to go back and get a set of as-built plans for us and show us how you're going to retrofit these buildings.
So are you willing then to submit to staff your good faith effort to survey the buildings to protect the children?
As long as we know what the survey consists of.
Are you willing to propose elements of the survey?
Yeah, we can take a look at that, sure.
Okay. The other thing, on your traffic flow, the traffic flow seems to be a major point of contention with the community.
Mm-hmm.
And as being a former school administrator, I know that you can't control all the parents. But there are a lot of things that you can do to encourage parents to respect the needs of the community. My personal response is that on the elementary side, the lower school side, I think you have that covered. You can stack them up Michelinda and then all the way down to Wilson on that side, and you can use an ambassador program. Somebody opens the door, takes the kid out, the car leaves. You can do
Right.
that on a pretty quick basis.
Right.
The one that seems to cause a lot of community concern is on the Wilson side. So are the parents currently now coming into the parking lot off of Wilson, dropping a student off and then exiting back onto Wilson?
I believe so. Do you want to go ahead and answer that? Or?
Currently, the way it's supposed to work and how we tell our parents every week, as well as the students, is that they are supposed to come south on Wilson,
Right?
come into the
Turn right into the
Turn
parking
right.
lot, go up against the villa, drop the student off and go back onto Wilson.
and go right, down towards Highland.
Okay,
So
but,
they're not supposed to go left. That's why we are now out on the street to make sure they're not doing that, so there's not a cross traffic.
so is there somebody stationed at that exit gate to make
Yes,
sure that
now.
they cannot turn left?
Yes, now there is,
Now there is.
yes.
How long has that assignment been?
It has been going on for 2 weeks, for sure.
Only for the last 2 weeks?
Yes, because our neighbors were very, very, our neighbors have been very specific in letting us know what the concerns were.
Okay. Because that seems to be a point of contention, plus you seem to have parents that drop off in other locations and have the kids run across the street to get to the school, which always fascinates me, that this is the most important person in your
Whenever
life,
we have,
run across
yes,
the street.
and whenever we have seen that, we have spoken to both the parent and the student.
Okay, I think maybe it would be very helpful for your relationship with the community if you were more and more insistent that the parents comply, because it seems to be a major point of friction between the school and the community.
Thank you. Yes, and we are working on that.
Okay.
It's amazing what detention does.
Okay.
And so we are working on that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you all for stealing many of my questions. I appreciate that. Makes my job a lot easier. I have a couple of sort of technical processing questions for staff. One is, in the staff report, you note that the height on some of the buildings is 39 feet and the allowed is 33. Is that, in different zoning districts, that's just not allowed, right? But in this district, is it allowed that we can approve that extra height? And if so, what are the findings that we need to make in order to do that?
So one of the sections in the master plan findings, there's deviation from or modification to development standards. So the commission, if they so desired, could deviate from that height restriction. As I indicated, staff is still recommending that they comply with the height requirement.
And the deviation, the amount of deviation that we could do is at our discretion. It's not like limited to 10% or anything like that.
That's
So if we
correct.
wanted to, we could approve the
Yes.
39. Okay. And there's no specific finding that we need to make, just that we think it's part of the master plan.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, there was a discussion of design review, future design review for the buildings. What standards would we use for that design review? Are those our standard design review findings?
That would be our existing design review standards. This is an institutional zone, so the single-family design review standards that we would typically apply, as state law now requires them to be objective, we would continue to use what we currently utilize.
Okay. And then you said those would be done at staff level, but staff could direct some of the projects up.
Yeah. Certainly the multi-purpose building, the new lower campus buildings collectively would all go definitely to the Planning Commission. If there's internal improvements to the caretaker's cottage, for instance, to create flexible classroom space, and there's not a lot of alteration to the exterior, that could be addressed at the staff level, or possibly the 1,200 square foot building addition to the visual arts, performing arts building.
Right. Do we have the authority as part of the approval of the master plan to designate certain of those that would need to come to us?
Yes, you
Okay.
certainly
'Cause,
can do that.
obviously, we love our current staff, but you never know what's going to happen in the future. So some of those, I think, would make sense. And I agree with the list as you put them out there. But I do think that some of those we'd want to make sure come back to us. So, okay, thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
Actually, I had some.
Keep going, Tom.
That made me think about some of the other procedural plans. So, are we accepting, is it our job to accept the report or to recommend changes to it? Or like, what is our purview here, and what are we supposed to be considering?
So the purview of the commission is to look at the reports that have been prepared. If you feel that there's insufficiencies, you can certainly request that the applicant come back with additional material to help support all the findings.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought of some other ones. At some point, we need to stop. When we updated the housing element, we talked about the overlay for churches. Was this school considered as part of that as a possibility, or no, because it's a school, even though it's a Catholic school?
We did not consider it because it's a school campus, yes.
Okay. And then one other thing that the applicant talked about was the condition on the street trees. It did seem like the condition was sort of ambiguous as to what trees are going to be removed. Could we get some clarification from Public Works Department on which street trees they want taken out? Because I think a lot of people wouldn't be happy campers if we just started wholesale taking out street trees.
I spoke to Chris Semino, Public Works Director, and he was indicating that it's really case-by-case basis. It's to maintain and repair sidewalks. It's to trim or consider removal of some trees.
Okay.
But if we continue this matter, we can certainly have him clarify.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. So normally, we'll start the public comment part of this, but I think since we've had such an extended presentation and discussion with question and answer, and maybe everybody can just take a deep breather, we'll take a short recess. Okay? Come back here in about, what, 10 minutes? Sound good?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And
Or
do
you can
public
stay here.
comments in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Cool.
We'll be back. I'm having surgery tomorrow. I want to go to bed early. Just on my leg, but enough that I'm going to be gimped up that I'm not looking forward to it, you know.
We're like 60.
You know how it is. It's not the day of surgery, it's the recovery afterwards.
Some people sent in, like one lady sent in.
Yeah, I shouldn't complain.
4 in one day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. Attention, we're going to come back in session. If you'd like to take your seats, please.
And these were concerns, these were no's. The stars are definitely Sierra Madre residents. There are a lot of Sierra Madre residents. Okay. Can't really tell. Yeah. Oh, okay. I just recognized the last name.
Great.
Oh, so much drama.
Yeah, okay. So.
Bang the bang. There we go.
Quiet, please. Thank you. So we'll resume the meeting, and this is the section which everybody's been probably looking forward to. It's the time of public comment. I'll just repeat. I hope you have your cards that you've given to Jen up here ahead of time, so we know what to expect and who's coming and information, etc. So we'll start. I'd like to reiterate, since we have such a big crowd, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes, so you can determine what order you want to come up, but we'll go ahead and start the public comment. Anybody wants to speak on this matter may come up.
Good evening. My name is David Bland. I'm with Lisa Paleo. Our address is 672 West Highland. Oh, my glasses are steaming up. Well, first, I wanted to say the Planning Commission has really done an excellent job at bringing a lot of the concerns that we have as adjacent neighbors. We really appreciate that. I do want to highlight that we do want to be good neighbors as well. I mean, that's all of our goals. Unfortunately, we don't think it's fair to ask us to give up our right to quiet enjoyment of our homes, to have to be a good neighbor to do that. So we need to work on that together to get back to allowing us to enjoy the quiet enjoyment of our properties while the school is operating. We appreciate the importance of the school. The school does bring a lot of good things to the community, but unfortunately it's currently bringing a lot of bad things to adjacent neighbors, and we need to resolve that. I wanted to highlight specifically traffic. The traffic study is seemingly ancient. I don't think anybody's actually monitored what's going on a daily basis. We live it. It takes me literally 3 minutes to get out of my driveway on Highland Avenue. It takes me another couple minutes to get to Michelinda. The left turn is incredibly dangerous. I can barely see because of all the cars stacked up on Michelinda. I've been nearly hit a couple times. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure that's happening regularly. There are going to be some accidents on that street. That's going to be very sad when it happens. So the queuing is not working. The queuing is spilling into the streets, right? The parents are angry because the queuing takes so long. So they're not even friendly drivers, believe me. It's a problem, and it needs to be worked on and resolved. Or we're losing our neighborhood, unfortunately, to this growth at the campus. As you said, you can't make parents do exactly what they intend to do. But I don't think that's the major issue. I think the major issue is the current plan just doesn't work, to be perfectly honest, and it needs to be monitored and reviewed. And there were some good suggestions I thought that were made. Sound abatement. I don't know who's doing this modeling, but I'm an expert in Excel. I can model anything in Excel and tell you anything you want to hear. I think these models are doing the same thing. Somebody needs to come on the properties, take true measurements, understand what's going on. We are measuring actively as a community. And I'm standing here representing a coalition of citizens and residents that live in all the surrounding streets of the high school of Alverno. And every one of them has noise issue complaints. Every one of them is measuring decibel readings over 80 decibels, sometimes 100 decibels. There are loudspeakers, there are walkie-talkies, there's screaming. Believe me, it comes into our rooms, it comes into our backyards, it comes into our houses, significantly more than it did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when there was not an issue. Now, I think a lot of this gets kind of conflated between the temporary use permits and the CUP. Yes, there are some violations of the CUP agreement already that I don't have time to list, but the TUPs are disastrous. Okay, we've become a filming studio, a filming street. It's taking up our parking. It's creating blockades in the traffic. It's further exacerbating the relationship between ourselves and the school. And our concern is it's being driven by poor financials. The school has been losing, he's lost over $3 million in the last 5-6 years. Maybe this plan solves it. I don't know. It seems like a field of dreams to us. And our concern is this field of dreams plan is going to become a neighborhood nightmare for years to come. Please stop it.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, Marcel. Anyone else? Yep. Come on up.
Anyway, I'm Harry Hudick. I live on Wilson Street. I've lived there for 11 years. I would ask that you delay approving the master plan based on having them go back and engage their consultants on traffic and noise and have them take actual measurements to validate the model. Because, well, here's some unofficial noise right here. This is during filming. Commercial trucks right in front of my house, one after the other after the other. Anyway, I just think they owe us that and to come up with some better solutions. I have a recommendation, and I'd like to ask that my recommendations and the Wilson Street petition that I already submitted, I would ask that you require Alverno to execute these before you approve the next phase of the construction and the master plan. And that is the restoration of the greenscapes. They showed you a picture real quick. All the other perimeter areas, and they even talked about adding trees to the Mitchell-Linda side, they all have cover, which also serves as a visual and a sound barrier. They all have cover. Ours is like everything is cut out. I'm looking straight at the field. They cut out the oak tree that was there, and the city cut out the two, I think they were diseased, two of the large pine trees that we've been talking about. From my point of view, please don't cut the rest of them down, because that already serves as a visual and sound barrier. If they're not diseased and they're not causing current problems to the sewer system, I'd ask that you keep them. So we're asking for the green space cover on the south side of Wilson Street, and I'd also ask that you allow them to install 2 to 3 speed bumps on Wilson. You're not going to control the parents. My kids go to the public schools. They came up through Sierra Madre Elementary. One's in the high school in Pasadena now, and the other one's in the middle school. So I got to get out of my driveway in the morning and take him across town to the middle school. And I'm telling you, you might control them for 1 or 2 days, but you're not going to control them. They don't control them at the middle school. So, but the amount of traffic prevents us from, at the middle school, from speeding up that street. And there is a crossing guard in the middle. Anyway, I'd ask that you allow them and require them to put in 2 to 3 speed bumps. So when there's nobody standing out there managing their parents, they have to slow down. That will help a lot.
Thank you.
Am I out of time?
Yes.
I have a question for staff. Is there a city policy on speed bumps?
I would have to check with the Public Works Director, but I was also under the impression that speed bumps adjacent to schools were prohibited. But we have to confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that information would be very useful to us, because I think that's an issue that's come up, and it's a potential solution, and so we need to try to find potential solutions.
And the other point of clarification, it talked about green space. Is that including like a green fabric on the chain link fence, or is it planting?
I am interpreting that to meaning planting, whether it be a vine or shrubs or additional trees.
Okay.
That's our purview. Okay. Anyone else? I saw someone, there you go.
Hi there, Keith Stevens, 717 West Grandview. We're on the north side of Alverno. And the noise, it's hard to quantify, justify it. Example, last Saturday we had some people over, 5:30 in the afternoon, and suddenly there's some loud music with subwoofer penetrating our home. We thought it was a car at the intersection, but the noise continued on. We finally go up and look out, and it's a bus in the Alverno parking lot dropping off students. We called Andrea, the facilities manager, who gave us the usual lip service that she doesn't hear anything, she'll look into it. 45 minutes later, the noise is still going on. We call back, she's not answering. Come to find out that neighbors on other streets had also called as well, and yet nothing happens. So this is a Saturday afternoon, it's not a school day, and just this bus, I don't know who or why it was there, but it was on their property making noise, and they didn't do anything about it. As far as the movie business, you know, they had a 3-month shoot. Perhaps it was 2019, it was pre-pandemic, and trucks and generators were just constantly there. The noise, it doesn't reach 80 dB, but just the vibration of a generator sitting across the street from you just starts to shake the house. The filming was finalized by demolishing a 4-car garage that they had built next to the villa. And because we stopped signing or agreeing with the movie releases, the movie people stopped coming to us, giving us notifications. So we weren't notified 10 o'clock on a Friday night when this bomb goes off, blows up a garage, shakes our house, sends the cat flying across the room, and my wife is reduced to tears for hours. The school simply said, yeah, we didn't know it was going to be that bad. But nothing else was done about it. And I don't know, we just had enough. We're talking about the school, but it's so much more than the school. We deal with the drunks at weddings who don't want to quiet down at 10 o'clock, who don't want to park where they're supposed to park. It's ongoing 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So if we want to have a school, let's have a school. But this free-for-all, whoever's got money can come and make noise, has got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Colleen Thomas. Our family lives at 249 Wilson at the top of Wilson. We have lived in Sierra Madre since 2005. We are very proud to be a part of this community. But lately, for the past 2 years, and specifically since the K-8 opened, we have had a constant barrage of outsiders, criminal complaints, and activity that shows to me that Alverno could care less about these neighbors. They will lie, cheat, and push all these agendas not for the best interest for the community, but for themselves. We have a son with autism, and I highly doubt you guys would accept him. The last year, we have had to stay at home and teach. Learning became very difficult because of his sensory input was magnified by a constant traffic, noise, and endless disruption from Alverno. We have drawn the blinds permanently, put a noise-canceling fan, music, and devices in every room. On most days, it starts with a wake-up call at 7 a.m. from cars coming from Grandview at the speed of light, slamming on their brakes mid-Wilson Street, and then the lovely cha-chang, cha-chang, cha-chang
of that dang gate base. That goes on till at least 8:05. There are some parents that seem to have the repetitive timing issues that are late and seem to think that it's okay to go from 0 to 60 for a half a block. We have been almost hit numerous times because it's more important for them to get their kids to school late than go the speed limit. 8:05 to 1 p.m. is in everyday school activities. Starting at 1 p.m., parents start lining up to pick up, and line goes from the gate, mid-Wilson, loop up Wilson, onto Grandview, with parents parking on the west end, along with the line, smoking, and putting more trash everywhere they please. When the line is going into Grandview, some parents think it's their given right to surpass the line, drive south on the northbound lanes. I've witnessed more than I can count this constant violation of traffic and trash laws. 3 months into the new school year, I have run out of storage on my phone from incidences on Wilson. We have a Pasadena cops across our street fingerprinting a stolen car. We have so many strangers that we don't even know what to expect on a day-to-day basis. On a weekly basis, the start is a 7 a.m. wake-up call, lasts till sometimes 11:30 at night, and on those filming nights, it will last till almost 2 or later. It never stops, you guys. I have called the cops numerous times because we are trying to have a nice evening in our own living room, and all we hear is the bass, lyrics to the song Thriller, and a DJ announcing the next dance with crowds screaming. Within our own house. Not to mention soccer, softball, football games till 8 p.m. The reason they're allowing them to use the field is because let's tell the truth, the coach at Alverno has a softball team through Sierra Madre Little League. Through the girls softball league. That's why they're using the field. The gates are locked to us. I've tried numerous times. They will not let us on. They now have a new sign posted that says, stay away, trespassers. They will not let us on. I've been kicked off by security guards. Filming, wedding, fundraisers, it's constant. At least when we first moved to Wilson Street 5 years ago, we knew we moved next to a school.
Time, please.
But they were quiet and it wasted. I will say, I'm not gonna stop, that even with tinted windows, they have construction going on in that art building. Is that approved? We have constant construction, and their own construction person had the audacity to back up the street with tinted windows, and while a neighbor and I were talking, intimidation, intimidation, intimidation. They don't want to listen to us.
Okay.
And it's just ever evolving.
Okay, thank
and
you.
getting really tiresome.
Sure, someone. Okay.
My name is Cecilia Rogers, and 30 years ago, we moved to 657 West Grandview Avenue. At that time, there was all this open space where all those lovely homes are on Jameson Court. And now, with the expansion of the school and what's going to happen at the monastery, I'm afraid that Sierra Madre is going to lose its sweet village ambience. And now I've noticed on our street that parents don't want to line up in the queue to drop off their kids. So now they pull up on Grandview and park there. And Athens Trash has like these big commercial bins, and so they can't get to it because the parents are parked, so they can't pick up the trash. And also now there's more litter on the street, and as far as the noise is concerned, you can't contain the noise to just the school. I get up at 6 a.m., I pick up the LA Times, and I hear the traffic from the freeway. So what do you think the sound from the school is like? So my two complaints are the traffic and the noise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh.
Good evening. My name is James George, and my family lives at 471 San Gabriel Court. I'm here to ask for you to support the approval of the update to their master plan. There obviously have been a lot of emotions in the room, and it seems like there are some concerns, valid concerns, that I think the school will take under advisement. But from my perspective and kind of just my personal experience as both a Sierra Madre resident and a parent of 2 children that are in the lower school, we were actually very excited last year when our, at the time, kindergarten was able to help launch and start a new school and be a part of that. But at the same time, we're excited to see what the next 60 years is to come. this community and the school has been here and served this community for 60 years, and we want to be around for the next 60, but we do need to have a new campus for the lower school. We need to remain competitive, and having our children in modular classrooms for the foreseeable future will work, but it's not a permanent solution, in my opinion. And so one thing that I think has been very clear so far is schools, neighborhoods, neighborhood schools, which one came first, is the chicken or the egg? And I think it's been very clear that open communication and dialogue is required. There's definitely been some suggestions on things that could be done and improved in regards to the actual school or adjacent to the school. But in terms of the actual master plan and the school itself, I think we need to make sure that we're actually comparing what's specific to the school and maybe what's specific to an outside activity. I think those two are very, very different, and granted the campus is being used for both a school and potentially for activities and events. There's different aspects of the master plan that I think are very specific to the school. I think hopefully that's what you're going to be taking into consideration tonight. I know that there's been comments about whether or not the school is taking into consideration and taking under advisement some of the comments from neighbors. I think it's clear from either the coalition and hopefully from the parents and the faculty and staff that this is a new school, if you think about it, right? The school has been here for 60 years, but we have an influx of new families that want to be a part of this community that weren't here 2 years ago. And so now that we are here, we're here, we've got open ears and minds and want to make sure that for the school to be here into the 21st century, 22nd century, that we're open to making sure that your guys' concerns are heard. So even though we might have differences of opinions about the actual content of the plan, I do think that the school and the staff that have put the time in, and as well as the city staff and the commissioning staff that's taken a look at this, the best interest of not only the children in the school, but the Sierra Madre community is at heart. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Please, 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 please. Try not. Okay. Please, no back and forth. Yeah, please.
Yeah, that's why you have a
Order.
gavel.
Yeah. Thank you. Keep going. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Young Yu. I'm here in 3 capacities as a resident of Sierra Madre. I'm also a parent of a 2nd grader at the lower school in Alverno. And I'm also a licensed architect in the state of California. I've spent the last 25 years working on K-12 public schools. And so I have a lot of expertise in that forum. I'm here to, in all capacities, to say that, I hope that you are able to support the revision to the CUP as presented. I think just a couple of points that, based on the questions that had come up, the idea of what a school looks like now and what we're designing now to compete for sort of the students that are out there on the public school side as well as on the private school side, it's very different than what it was 10, 15 years ago. We're talking about classrooms that need to be 21st century oriented, where you are able to do many things within a classroom. It's not just we all sit all facing the chalkboard in one direction anymore. It's about splitting into smaller groups that are working together, and so that needs a little more space. You need furniture that's able to move around and to configure into different configurations to be able to accommodate that. We're also talking about specialty classrooms that need to be within the school to provide for what is happening now in the world out there. That includes STEM classrooms, robotics. We're talking all these things. And you might think, well, that's in the high school levels, right? No, this starts in the elementary schools and levels now, where they need to learn how to do and be able to learn those things so that when they get to a middle school, to a high school, they are competent and are able to compete with the rest of the world. And so there's that aspect of it. And I can see time's running really quick. Sorry. But I just want to say that the plan that's been put forward with the masking and the architecture of it and where the specific things are going to happen, that's all going to come back to you. And you'll be able to review it and be able to have a lot of influence on how that happens. I think the overall, this is the guiding principles of what's happening and going forward on that campus. And I think it's important to realize it's 400. That's not increasing. That's the same, right? And just to put that into perspective, the Sierra Madre Elementary School sits on a 6.5 acre lot, and the capacity is 738 students. This one we're talking about a 12 acre lot that accommodates 400. And so, I mean, some of the neighbors, I understand the traffic aspect of it. I live near St. Rita's. The queuing of that line, but I knew that. I knew that when I was moving into that area, is that I knew that there was a school there at that corner. And so it happens twice a day, and I live with it because I know what was coming and what was there. Now, they don't even have the benefit of having Michelinda where you can actually queue up. They are on the Grandview side of it, and there's parked cars, so then they're doing this. But I live with it because I knew what I was getting into. So I'll leave that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chief, please don't clap, because I don't want people to boo, et cetera, and I don't want back and forth. I appreciate you just not doing anything. Just let people talk. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello there, my name is Lindsay Robinson. I also have a child at Alverno. My daughter is in kindergarten, so I'm here again in support of Alverno and to ask you to please consider this plan. While our teachers and staff at Alverno have done a wonderful job of creating our current space, it is a temporary space, and like other parents have mentioned, we do really need these buildings, not only to compete with other schools, but just so our children can have a really wonderful academic experience and a place to really grow and thrive. In just the 2 years my daughter has been there, I've seen her make tremendous, not just academic strides, but emotional and social, which in many ways is more important to me. So I just ask that you please consider adding on these buildings that will really benefit our children. I will also add that I'm probably what some Sierra Madre residents may consider an outsider. I live in Pasadena, however, since coming to Alverno, we now spend a lot more time in Sierra Madre. We just had an event with some moms and a teacher at Savor the Flavor. So I know, again, we want to be a part of this community, spend time here, spend money at businesses, and again, really be a part of the community here. I completely understand the concerns. I also live by a school. I live right by Marshall in Pasadena. I know some people by Alverno, maybe they hear screams. For us, that is our children playing and really having a wonderful experience. And I know even living by Marshall, there are times people come and park by my house. And there are times that Washington and Allen are crowded. And to me, what I see, that is not an inconvenience to me. It's not just about me. I see a flourishing school. So I hope that people can see that when they look at Alverno and understand that we want to be a part of the community and we just want a wonderful space for our children to grow and have a great academic experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, thank you. Yes, yes. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Dan Bacani. I'm over there at 1105 East Colorado in Pasadena. That's my business address. I actually was invited, like 6-7 years ago by a former city manager, Elaine Aguilar. What I do is I'm a commercial real estate broker. I own my firm over there in Pasadena. And I also do economic development consulting for cities, most recently hired by Arcadia. And at the end of the day, why that's important, when you look at community, it's basically those three things that comprise community. It's the people that live there, it's the people that work there, and it's the people that learn there. And at the end of the day, they all have to work with one another. I highly recommend that you work with Alverno. My daughter goes there. We absolutely love it. And where Alverno really benefits the community is in the downtown. Elaine asked me to consult with her a little bit because she wanted to bring more restaurants, more amenities, the savor of the flavors of the world. And I asked her why. Aside from the sales tax revenue, why do you want to do this? At the end of the day, what she's been hearing from the folks that live here is they want to spend their dollars here in the community. And what's great about Alverno is it brings families from different communities into Sierra Madre, spending their money in Sierra Madre. And as the young lady before me said, being part of the community. I definitely get and understand the frustration with the neighbors. I have every confidence in the world that this commission will listen to their concerns, incorporate solutions. But at the end of the day, Alverno Heights Academy, and thank God for this, they're here, they've been part of the community. Let's work together collaboratively with one another. Again, it's frustrating. I live near a school myself in Monrovia. It is tough, okay, but again, They're here, and all I've heard from Alverno is that they want to work with the community. They want to work with the commission. I know, again, it's frustrating. So again, please can stay the course, work with the folks at Alverno, and I'm sure the nice people here will do what they can to make sure that the neighbors' concerns are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Darren Clausen, Pasadena resident, but a business owner here in Sierra Madre. And I do have 3 leaders that go to Alverno, future leaders, I hope. And, you know, we need to update. Everything has to have growth. And that's the only way you succeed. You know, everyone wants the best for the kids. We want the best for the community. And they have to go hand in hand. And so I ask that you guys approve this. You know, I think it benefits the community, benefits our kids, and helps secure our future. Our kids are gonna be sitting in your spot. That's what you have to understand. The kids of today are there tomorrow. And the only way that's gonna happen is just continue to let the schools grow. You know, everyone has I understand about the traffic issue. You know, you see it at Sierra Madre Elementary, you see it at St. Rita, you see it at Don Benito. It happens. But work with us, and we'll meet you guys in the middle, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, how many cards do you have? Is that?
4 more.
Okay. Just checking. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ellen Driscoll. I'm an alumna of Alverno. I graduated in 1972. I'm also on the board, and I grew up right here, right below Orange Grove in Arcadia. I went to St. Rita's, I went to Alverno, my brothers went to LaSalle. My mother was on the founding committee to build Alverno. I've been involved in it for 60 years, one way or the other. I think we need to look at the long game here. What is it given to the community, and what will it give? I think what I'd like to say today that is perhaps unexpected is I live next door to Pauley School in Caltech. I've lived there for 25 years. Every morning from 8:05 till 8:35, you can't get out of your driveway. We've put up signs so nobody gets run over. We've put up vines for the noise abatement. I've been on the committee on the neighbor's side, worried about the kids. And guess what? We worked it out. I am so motivated on behalf of Alverno, as well as on behalf of all the neighbors, to get this done. When we were there at Alverno 100 years ago, there were 500 of us. God bless those nuns. In any event, we were noisy. We smoked. We ran over the fences for various purposes. We got in trouble. Our parents got involved. We worked it out. It has been a great part of my family's life, our community's life. The other thing, aside from my historical perspective, Alverno creates a lot of jobs. And that property, although it's a hassle for the neighbors, it could be a lot worse. 13 acres, prime real estate. If there's not a school there, you can imagine what's going in, and it's not going to be good. I want to thank all of you. This is really hard what you're doing, and I want to thank everybody that's here, especially the people that are complaining, because we need to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Next. Anyone else? We have. Oh, okay. We had a couple more cards submitted. If you changed your mind, that's fine. Oh, come on up.
Hi, my name is John Loftus. I live in East Pasadena by Victory Park, but I have a son who's in 6th grade at Alverno. And I've been through enough of these planning commission things in my professional life to know that there's never a perfect solution. But if you work on things, you can pretty much come to some sort of middle ground. So I would urge you to approve what they proposed here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, I didn't fill out a card. I'm at 239 Wilson. My name is Cynthia Swanka. And I guess in the master plan, I guess I read about robust outreach, and that's all I would ask for, is robust outreach to work with the school and be heard more. So, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah McCarthy. I'm the assistant head of school at Alverno Heights Academy. First of all, I want to echo the sentiments from the team at Alverno and thank you for the time and attention you've given to our proposed master plan amendment. I also want to take the time to publicly acknowledge the work that has been done by the director of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Ken Farsing, and our head of school, Julia Finara. Both have given decades of service to Alverno, the students, and the local community. Alverno has been a part of this community since the 1960s, which has brought many changes not to our campus, but the local community and the world around us. Throughout that time, Alverno has maintained our mission of empowering exceptional young women. And as an alumna, I'm proud to call these women my friends, sisters, colleagues, and mentors. As the world has changed, so has Alverno. It has called us to do it. And in 2020, we were fortunate to expand our mission to a TK through 8 lower school to include both young men and young women. Our commitment and dedication to student dedication has not faltered despite a global pandemic. I'm proud of our school and the work our faculty and staff and board put in every day to provide a safe and unique learning space for all students. As an administrator, I can share with you that this pandemic has drastically impacted young adults and children. I see it around me every single day in our students, in our parents, and in our neighbors. I sit regularly in webinars, meetings, and have conversations with other local and statewide assistant heads about how to support the mental health and emotional health of our students, and it's a daunting challenge. As one of our parents said, someday these children will sit in your seats. Alverno's plans will allow us to continue to expand serving our population with outdoor spaces that benefit the mental health of our students and faculty and staff. It provides an expanded art facility, which studies have shown is necessary to academic and creative growth, and we are preparing young leaders for jobs that don't even exist today. More so than ever, our students need a learning environment where they are met where they are. Alverno works hard to maintain a 12-acre campus that houses a historic property that helps to bring revenue into the city and local businesses. I am also an outsider, but I call this community my second home. Alverno's community is diverse and does welcome students from outside, as do all of the local schools in Sierra Madre, including the public schools. Our families and students spend money in town, support community events, and volunteer in local nonprofits and organizations. Like the world around us, we have changed. We are committed to our roots, our Catholic identity, and the belief that all students deserve a place to be learned, loved, encouraged, and understood. I respectfully ask that you approve the amendment so that we may continue our mission and provide opportunities for Alverno and Sierra Madre students for the generations to come. Thank you.
Okay. Is that pretty much, okay. Anyone else? Card.
My name is Julie Dyer, and I am a resident of Sierra Madre, 171 Orange Grove, and I am also on the board, and I've had 3 girls go to Alverno. And I just want to say, sitting here listening to everyone, I'm just really sad about, what I'm sad about is just the conflict between the neighbors and the, the school, because I've been on the board or involved with the school for about 14 years now, and what's sad to me is our girls and our kids suffering because, I remember my daughter when all of this was going on and the signs, the neighbors against Alverno, she's like, what did we do wrong? I think we're forgetting about our kids too here, and the younger ones that are coming in and how they're feeling about what's happening in our community. I just think that we need to bring this together, and, I'd like to see this plan approved. I do think that Alverno brings a lot of good to the community, and you know, I'd like to work it out with the neighbors. I mean, and I think we need to put our kids first. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
If I could have a question.
Well, I'll let you.
When was the last neighborhood meeting with Alverno?
Thank you. We'll bring that up. Thank you. That's
Okay.
not part of the meeting.
Mandated 4 times a year.
Okay. Great.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Stevens. I'm going to have to get reconciled. I sent a thumbnail. Vincent and I talked that perhaps that was the best way to bring it. Please don't start my timer yet. I want to discuss the fact that my exhibits didn't make it in. So there is more to what I provided to you, and I don't know how to get them to you because they're very evident. An image speaks volumes. So Vincent and I'll work on that. Okay.
Sure, that sounds good.
All
Okay.
right.
Did you want to say something? Go ahead, Vince.
No, we did discuss being able to try to play with a flash drive put into our computer. Our IT manager said absolutely not. We don't want to introduce possible viruses or
Oh, I
anything
see.
like that.
Something for a presentation. I see. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
Anyway, I wasn't going to do a document on that drop, but you'll need them to understand what it is in our petition, as long also what I put in a letter, and it is rather lengthy. I live across from Alverno at 717 West Grandview. We can no longer take care of family members who have dementia because the screaming from the children upsets them and sets them off if you've ever had to deal with somebody who has Alzheimer's. We have family we can no longer invite in the house who has cancer because they cannot rest. I cannot rest after my treatments. I'm really appreciative of everybody loving Alverno. We like it. We like the villa. It's very pretty. We miss the trees. What we don't appreciate is everybody telling us how we should live in our home. We have a very open plan. It's been there before the school, and it's an awesome house, but we have to stay shut up so that we can actually get some work done. But even now, it's going to cost us $200,000 to retrofit our home where we never had to because I cannot keep the screaming or the amplification out of my head. I mean, really, I'm in my home. There is noise that has been, excuse me?
Shh.
Please,
Please,
I mean,
quiet,
let's be
quiet.
respectful. You're all talking about being
Let her
respectful,
finish.
but they're not being respectful.
Yeah, let
We
her
have
finish.
asked numerous times. I've sent email after email saying, let's meet. We're supposed to have mandatory meetings quarterly, and I said, let's meet, let's talk about this. So it's really disingenuous of Alverno's staff and Board of Trustees, because I have sent emails to them asking them to meet with us. Let's talk about it. I don't want this school on the blacktop. It was there for 6 weeks while they accommodated filming. So can we have some really strong language when we do this school drop-off, that if they decide to do filming, I'm not suddenly going to have either all the trucks in front of my property, like the bus was Saturday, or that they moved the whole school on the parking lot because suddenly the film guys, this is what I was told, said it was too noisy for them. So they moved it in front of my house. So on a daily basis, I've got whistles, I've got practices going on, besides the children. I love screaming children. I work with special needs. But the shrieking is a decibel and a pitch and a tone I cannot tune out. And I hope people can understand that. It is my home. I have the right to the quiet enjoyment. And I also want to be in my yard. I want to retire in a couple years ago. It's an awesome house. Don't want to leave it. But with that said, we're asking you to very carefully work with Alverno and the neighbors and read through what we've put in there, because some of what is being said up here does not speak to the actions that we have received. I have numerous emails that basically don't hear what we're saying, don't respond, or we're being gaslit. No, there's no speakers going on. It's like, sorry, I have so many, whoops, didn't mean to hit that, recordings just after recording, which I didn't send all of them to you. It's just too loud. took around a petition, you'll get it. There are several Grandview and Allegria residents. I'm sick, I can't make it to everybody. But I was shocked the number of people, like, they are also as upset about the traffic on Grandview. It is an issue. Please stop talking, it's so rude. But anyway.
Yes, we get it. And you sent all the videos, is that the?
I tried, and
Okay.
we'll work it out. That
Okay.
It's videos, images. We have lights that shine in our home. That's been an issue we tried to get taken care of since 2011. The multipurpose building, I want some mitigation measures. Get that thing built, because we were promised if we would allow that building, these sports would go inside of it. These basketball, volleyball, and whatever else they're playing out there.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good. All right. Anybody else? Okay, well then I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the commission. We've got a lot to chew on.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go back this direction.
The right's giving a.
I think there was an interesting discussion tonight about what community is, and I think that was really insightful. I think community is broader than just residents, although residents are obviously very important, but it's also schools, it's businesses, it's people that visit the town. I don't think it, just because somebody lives in Pasadena, it doesn't matter what they think if they come here. We can all be part of the community. And there was also, in that whole discussion, a lot of discussion about cooperation and working together and trying to find solutions, and I think that's all really positive. But I don't feel like we're to a point where that's brought forth fruit that we can say we're good to go and approve this tonight. I really feel like there's a number of areas and issues that we have that need more work so that we can get some sort of resolution and solution to these things. The biggest one seemed to be the noise, and it seems to me, sort of sifting through the comments, that a lot of the stuff is not from the school, it's from the filming and the other activities that go on, especially late at night or in the weekends or whatnot. And so I think we really need to understand better what the temporary use permit process is and what restrictions and conditions are put on that. And I think I'd like to see some sort of, further understanding, maybe a report on that from staff, so we can sort of separate the school, which we're considering now, and the TUPs, and figure out a solution there. Because I don't think we can get at the TUPs now with this, right? But we need to understand the whole package to make sure that the whole community can live together. Also, it seems pretty clear that there needs to be more green barrier and hedge or trees or whatnot on Wilson for a visual and sound barrier. I think the idea of speed bumps is a very good idea, but then again, we face a lot of potential hurdles on that, or maybe there's codes against it. I think we need to understand how that works and what, if that's actually an option that could be helpful. The drop-off, it sounds like the drop-off on the lower campus maybe has some issues, but at least somewhat functions. But on the Wilson side, we need more work. And maybe we've talked about some solutions about further paths that could help on that side. So I think it would be good to see there. We really haven't got much discussion at all about the buildings and their design. So, yeah, on the land use. But I think that's also important, and I do think that I'm not comfortable just saying, yeah, we'll do design review that might come to us or not. I think certain of those buildings, we definitely need to say these need to come to the commission level. A small addition onto something, I think that's fine to be at staff, but the main school building, the multi-purpose room, those things I think we want to see. And I'm a little leery of making a decision on the height without doing that design review, because it seems like it's very important to see what the building looks like. And if we take some arbitrary decision tonight to say we're going to cut the height off at this level, And then we get squatty buildings, and we're like, why? Can't you make this look better? And like, well, you told us they had to be short. But I do think I have a lot of concerns about the 3-story elements, and I think some of those might be better shifted. But I think those design issues are going to have to follow after all these other sort of non-planning sort of issues get worked out. On the conditions of approval, I think there's a number of conditions of approval that the school noted that are ambiguous and need to be fine-tuned, and I think it would be useful if the school and staff could work on that. So I'm not comfortable taking a condition of approval that I think is a good concept, but the fact that it's ambiguous, then just deleting it. I think the school needs to come back and say, look, this is how we think we could deal with this. I think Bob had some good ideas on some of the safety issues, but also the trees and whatnot. We need a little more work on those. So those are sort of my major takeaways. And I think hopefully we can get some more information on those, and I'm sure you all have other ideas, and we can try to fine-tune this to get it to actually work.
Sure.
Okay. So I'd like to make the point that we're the planning commission, not the education society or whatever for the city. So I'm commenting on the quality of the education. We grant you that. And I'm very appreciative to Alverno. I was here for the last time when we did the last document, and we burned through 2 hours of kids coming in talking about how, all the teachers walk on water and spit jelly beans and whatever. And we grant you that your education program is fine. What we're here to deal with is land use issues and the impact on the community. So the fact that you've got the programs going on at school, we applaud that. You get that all from the get-go. So the issues that I think that need to be refined and have some dialogue with is the safety issue. I think that you can conduct a survey of your existing classrooms and identify issues that need to be mitigated for the safety of the children. And I think you could come up with that list as a to-do list. Those checklists are ubiquitous. If you want a good one, go to LAUSD, and they've got a long one because I used to do that. But I think that you have existing buildings that you have not paid attention to in some areas. When I walked through the campus the other day, I noticed a few things, and I think you can improve on that. And I think that would fulfill what your pushback on survey. Okay? I do believe that finding as-builts for those buildings are a bridge too far. So I grant you that. The next thing is that the traffic control. It's obvious from your neighbors that for whatever reason, your traffic program is not doing what it should be. I'm very glad that you have board members here tonight. I'm very glad you have parents here tonight, because both those groups are part of the solution. The parents need to talk to other parents, because it's not the second graders that are driving the cars. It's the parents. And do parents act badly? Yes, they do. Are they in a hurry in the morning? Yes, they are. Do they do dumb things? Yes, they do. But there needs to be more of an effort on the school's part on curbing that and correcting them. At the very least, I'd like to see somebody at the Wilson gate that stands in the road to make sure that they don't turn, turn right going out. And I'd like to see somebody at the Highland gate to make sure that they go the correct direction. And I think that needs to be part of your daily activity. You can, a paid employee with a safety vest to make sure the parents do right. I think it's a bridge. I think you are being too optimistic to think that your parents are just so good that they're always going to do the right thing. It's not going to happen. And their parents, especially parents that don't live in Sierra Madre, may not have the same level of interest in the Sierra Madre, the residents' concerns, because it's not their community. So I think you need to up your game on that. Do I think your elementary school pickup and drop-off program is correct? Yes, I do. I think, though, that you can move the pickup and drop-off point once you build the building to all the way down by Highland, and institute a program where the parents drive up, you have a parent volunteer, open the door, take the kid out, get the kid going, and the parents go through. Because that line on Michelinda is annoying. And I see it all the time, and I'm sure that the other people find it annoying. But you can make it go faster. I think the same thing is true for Wilson, but I think you're going to need to do a lot more parent outreach. And I think that it would be a nice thing that if the members of your board actually took the names of the people in here who have issues with your school and contacted them directly and brought their issues back to your board, I think it would be very helpful. Because I do think that their concerns are legitimate concerns. As a fireman, I used to work the movie shoots on that property, and they went till late at night. They were noisy, so that does happen. These people aren't making this stuff up. It's there. So you need to take ownership of that and hear them and respond appropriately. And so I would like to see a detailed response on that issue, because I think that talks about the intensity of use and land use, which is why we're here. The green zone, you already have 50 trees down sitting in boxes on the south end of your property down by Highland that you could put in the ground tomorrow. You own those trees. And they would go a long way towards mitigating some of the concerns we have. And they'll go a long way for when you bring us the design for your multipurpose building and your elementary school classrooms to hide that building. You're very lucky that you have some very tall pine trees on the south end that are going to mitigate the impact of a proposed 3-story building. That's the one thing you have going for you. If those trees weren't there and you put up a 3-story building, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, and you're going to have a lot of emotional problems. So I would start your planting program tomorrow, because it softens the blow on a lot of what you want to do with your program. The lights shining into your neighbor's property, that's wrong. When you were here before, sir, I pointed out to you that your classrooms on the north side of the building shined across the street into the people on Grandview, and you addressed that. And I commend you for it. I think you should go around your school at night and look where your lights are shining and mitigate that. We have dark sky ordinances for new development, but the reasons it's there is so that what happens on your property doesn't spill over to your neighbor's property. And that's a reasonable expectation. And I think the neighbors would be appreciative if you showed that effort and put in the time and energy into mitigating whatever it is that's going on. So I do believe that this document is incomplete. I'd like to see greater detail in especially the pickup and drop off. I'd like to see what items for your survey for your seismic safety. And I'd like to see more interest in your green zone around your perimeter that will help you mitigate some of these issues. So when that comes back, I think we can make some progress. But you have a relationship with these people around you, and I think that if you are truly interested in doing the right thing, you will reach out to them and see what you can do. I mean, you should make a good faith effort to do that. And what I'm hearing from a lot of them is that they don't hear that back from you. So you may want to seriously look at how you handle complaints. Because I think that what I'm hearing from a lot of them is that they don't get acknowledged, which is probably why they're so upset now. So everybody knows that school kids make noise, and I have a limited sympathy because I used to work at schools all the time. So yeah, the kids make noise. The kids are 25% of your population and 100% of your future, but they're there. But there are things that you can do to operate a school, to run a school, that mitigates those issues. So good luck with that.
And some of these are going to be repeats to what Commissioner Spears just said, but I want to make sure that staff hears them so that we're clear on what we need to get back. From my perspective, I think we really need to get the complete list of conditions from the previous CUP. I think we need to not look at this in a vacuum of what we're amending without knowing what's there today. And so I think that that's certainly necessary, at least from my perspective, before I could move forward on this. I think the tree report probably needs a bit of a refresh since it was done in the vacuum of not having any of the proposed buildings at the time. I think that getting a list from staff, a recommendation of what buildings should be mandated to come before the commission versus which ones would be considered at a staff level outside of extraordinary is part of what we should put in there. I'd also kind of like to understand what was approved by the 2011 CUP that hasn't been built yet, so that we understand what we're truly adding. It seems to be kind of a amorphous gray area as to what's been approved, what hasn't been approved, what we're changing, what the changes are. I mean, it could be that we're only approving another 10,000 square feet, but I wouldn't know that because I don't know what was approved and not built yet from the other one. So that would be helpful, I think, in looking at this. We've heard a lot of passionate speech about noise. I share a minimal amount of concern about the daytime use of schools. I can hear the morning assembly from time to time from other schools in town. That's the nature of having a town. I am thankful that that is one aspect of it because of the fact that it eliminates it from really what we are considering because of the fact that it's a CUP that's affecting the filming and the nighttime use. And so I think that understanding to the point that you made about the TUP, but I think also the CUP that allows them to do the filming and the TUP for the events that are there.
Yeah, presently there's no CUP that regulates filming and events. It's through the TUP.
Okay. So I guess getting a better understanding of the TUP and how it applies to the school. And I mean, it's lovely, and I love when I watch a movie or something and I see the building. I've been in the building for city events on the fire department. I went to a friend's wedding there. I love the property, but I think that there are a finite amount of times that we can call on our community to accept that, and so I'd love to understand how that's set up today. I think the safety plan needs to be more than just a commitment to do it. I think that it should be in there as a condition of approval. We've heard a couple people talk about the required meetings and outreach. If that is from the previous CUP, again, I guess that points to the fact needing more clarification on what's in the previous CUP. And would love to call on some of your experience, Director Gonzalez, on ways that put more skin in the game for the CUP in ensuring that the community has that voice and that their concerns are heard, acknowledged, and reconciled. Because we haven't seen any projects while I've been on that incorporated any of a feedback loop like that. And so maybe you have experience from other projects that you could help guide us towards possible solutions that kind of ensure that both sides are happy. I'm not expecting the Alverno to take care of every single request that comes in, but I think that there's some pent-up demand that we can get rid of here. And I think that's what I have.
Peggy?
It's clear that traffic and filming and weddings are a major disruptor in the neighborhood. And it seems like this master plan rethink is a perfect opportunity to maybe come back and redress some of those issues. I'd really like to see the master plan try a lot harder on the traffic issue. Try to get the traffic, the drop-off off of Wilson and put it off of Mitchellinda. If you drive up Mitchellinda, campus is basically walled off. Mitchalinda is protected from all the stuff that's happening on campus. The traffic, they even have the building protecting Mitchalinda from the noise. It all seems sort of upside down and backwards. We should send the traffic and the noise towards Mitchalinda and get it out of the neighborhood as much as possible. And I think it's worth a try. So if you can rethink some of those, maybe bring everybody in off of one driveway and have the high schoolers go north, and the lower school go south as drop-offs. I mean, there's got to be another way maybe, and I'd like to see that addressed. And as far as filming and wedding, I understand that you're not a public school and you need that for income, but it sounds, from what I'm hearing, excessive. So I'd like to have some understanding of what the plan would be if you had to cut it back, like 50%. How would you make up those funds to balance it out? Because it's obviously a heavy weight on the neighborhood. And so I'd like to hear some sort of financial, plan B. And I agree that for design review, it should come back. The lower campus should come back to the Planning Commission. And the conditions of approval need to be fine-tuned with the staff and the board. And I agree with the addressing the seismic survey. And so.
Sorry, I had one last thing that I forgot to mention. When I first read about that second driveway, I was all excited. I thought, oh, they're going to put that second driveway all the way down at the bottom, route all the traffic through, come out onto Mitchalinda at the bottom. Everything works really nice, and then you get rid of that entrance on Wilson. But that's not the program, and I understand that. But even if you were to add something like the flexible traffic, the delineators that you see that are about a meter high, and you just put a whole bunch of those in the middle of the road, nobody can possibly turn left out of there and cause the problems that are there today. Those are some smart fixes that we should be looking at as part of the traffic survey as well, I think.
Yeah, I wonder also if the issue, we're trying to separate the lower campus from the upper campus, but as you were saying, Peggy, that maybe you could at least enter it the same way. I mean, maybe there's an ability to stagger some start times so that you can have more capacity go through because it's not all coming in at the same time. I mean, I think there's solutions here to be had, but I think it just needs a little bit more thought and effort put into to try to get to those and responsiveness to the neighbors' concerns.
And I think these are school operation issues that you can demonstrate now that you are doing and show good faith. I mean, you don't have to wait for us to vote. You can address these things tomorrow. So, it'll go a long way towards showing good faith on the applicant's part.
Thanks, guys. Well, I'm not going to try to add to the details, but I'm going to speak to one issue that I think people haven't talked about because there's a lot of emotions with the neighbors. I was on the Planning Commission. I think Bob was too 10 years ago. In fact, with my recollection, I was actually coincidentally chairman. The two times I have, here I am again. But a lot has happened. And in that time period, we've seen the athletic field finally be developed and built. And my daughter got to go there. The first year it was available, and it's a beautiful structure. And I think my comments about the villa are the same as they were back then. This is a jewel of the community, and it's a shame that they've had troubles and they've developed the K-8, and whatever they're trying to do to keep the school there, I think we deserve to give them the best shot at doing so. Maybe it's a diamond in the rough at this point, and we need to look at what's happened in the last 2 years, because I think the most important thing is that people will discount is, and I'll speak just from my own personal experience. Bob's in fire and safety. I'm in medicine, so I've seen the effects of what's happened with COVID firsthand, and not just the death rate, but just what the effect it's had on the community. Everybody knows that you put on a mask, you don't really see anybody, and so if they haven't had meetings or haven't been in communication with the school, and that's pent up hostility and maybe even bad blood because of the way people responded, because they didn't really see, you don't really see who's behind the mask, and so even worse, behind a phone or a text or whatever else. And there's been a huge lack of communication. I think if that can be fixed, apart from maybe somebody stepping forward with an endowment for the school so they can build all this expensive stuff and maybe mitigate, the need for the movies and all this other kind of stuff. I wish I was in a position to do so, because it would be a shame to let something fizzle away because of a coincidental tragedy, which has had affects all across the country, and this is one little piece of the world that affects us. And I wouldn't want that to change the character of this community. So. I agree with Bob and everybody's talking about getting together with the community leaders. I mean, the community members that have all these emotions, and just maybe start a conversation with a commitment to really solving the problems. And the other mechanical things, we will definitely work out and make sure that the school gets, the kids get a quality education. And because we've heard from the support of the parents, I think that 10 years ago, there must have been 100 people that came up in support. I mean, all they said is, we just support Alverno. And I think that speaks volumes of the graduates, I wish one of them was Bill Gates, but, or Mark Zuckerberg, where are you? When I see some of these billionaires throwing around endowment money to places, even the colleges and stuff, you think like, it's a drop in the bucket. Just drop it on a place like this. It's a real jewel. I know that's not their concern on their radar, but I mean, that's what you think about when you see all this kind of stuff. And so, anyway, my daughter was privileged enough to go there and play on the beautiful athletic field, which I appreciate. I think that side of Wilson, even if the neighbors don't like the noise and everything, gives a beautiful view of the villa. And if you could improve the other side of the school with a real campus, no matter what we decide on, I think that would just be a big addition to the community. I don't want to see Alverno go away. So with that, I guess we have a list of things to do. I don't know anybody wants to make a motion, because I guess the thing is to ask the applicant. I suppose we're going to need to do some mitigation and have some conditions and bring this back.
Yes, staff has noted many of the issues that you discussed today. I'll go ahead and quantify my list and coordinate efforts with Alverno. Certainly there's some studies that we would like to update further. So at this point, it's sounding like the commission is going to continue the matter. Do we want to do to a date certain? Do we want to leave it open? Then we would do further notification in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I want to double check with, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, I guess that's up to the applicant.
Yeah.
I just want to double check with them. Is it you hear what we're saying? I doubt you don't want us to vote on this tonight, obviously, because we don't really have enough information, but any other comments or anything any questions you want to ask us, Ken, about going forward?
Yes, thank you. We're not opposed to a continuance. There's a number of very good issues that the commission has raised. We've also listened to the comments from the public. I think Director Gonzalez is right that we need to sit down and go through the list. There's certain things on the list that the school really can't address. I'll give you a good example is you'll need to talk with your city engineer and traffic engineer about speed, installing speed humps on Wilson. That's something we can't do, or putting delineators in. That's, if the traffic engineer feels that's a good solution. So I think there are things Vincent and I will need to sort through that will be the responsibility of the school to follow up on, and then the responsibility of the city to do some research. Providing you the information on the TUP. Vincent can obviously get that to you. Those are things that he has access to. I basically understand the comment on seismic safety. You're basically asking us to come up with a work plan, and, you know, you've given us some very good direction on things to look for. So again, I appreciate that. I would like to have a meeting with the Public Works Director on Wilson and Highland to understand what he really wants to do with the trees in that area. So it's not just a situation where it's a condition we don't understand. I'd like to, you know, I obviously we've heard from some of the commissioners and the residents, they don't want a lot of those trees taken down. And if you look at the condition, we don't know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So we really need to basically meet with the Public Works Director to go through that. And there's certain things we can start now. Obviously, you don't want to start adding landscaping without a plan. So I think, you know, we don't want to overplant areas. There's certain areas where we can start moving things around to help out temporarily, but I think we'd need more of a, you know, kind of a long-range plan, or at least a landscape plan to make sure our irrigation's okay, things like that. So again, there are certain things we need to take a look at. And again, in terms of traffic and circulation, we can basically work on some alternative scenarios. Tree report, that's not an issue. We can have the tree report revised. If there's additional reports that Vincent feels that we need to do, that's not an issue either. In terms of the filming, I want the commission to be aware that's really a separate city ordinance. And, I've always been trained as a professional planner that the planning commission is not to get into the economics of an applicant. And so with all due respect, I don't think we'll be sharing any financial information with you. I just have to be straightforward. We're a private institution. We don't share our budget information. Filming benefits the city. It's a major revenue source for the city of Sierra Madre, but you have control of that as the city council can decide to basically change filming citywide if they wanted to. And Alverno would follow whatever guidelines that the city puts together in terms of filming. And, but it might be good just to review how filming works. Maybe the commission understands how it works. We certainly, we're contacted on a lot of occasions by the location people for the film shoots. And they have a very rigorous process they have to go through with your film staff here. So there are regulations that, we have to follow. I think that's pretty much it. Again, I think just some information for the commission so you can see kind of what the regulations the school already has, and we can go through those with you. I think that would be helpful. So again, we're not opposed to a continuance. It's not, again, we'd prefer to work on solutions and the time we need to basically come back with solutions that staff has recommendations on, solutions from the community. So again, I think it's kind of your call as a commission, how you want to continue this, if you want to renotice or if you want to continue to a date certain.
Well, how much time would you think you'd need? I guess that's...
Well, again, I think that's hard to say because Vincent and I have to sit down and figure out what the work plan is. Okay. You all have great ideas, but we need to figure out exactly how we're going to implement it all. And it could take some time.
A date uncertain is fine.
Yeah, maybe just continue to a date uncertain and we have to re-advertise.
I think we can do that. I also just want to be clear that, at least me personally, but I'm sure this falls for those, a lot of the things we asked for was information, and not, that doesn't mean it's all you. A lot of this stuff, as you said, the speed bumps, the TUP program, that's stuff we're going to need to get from staff.
Right.
And we don't, as this commission, review TUPs. And so partly it's just, we need education so we can understand how the whole program fits together with the part that really we do all the time so that we could be responsive to people in the community and address their concerns.
Yeah.
And when it comes back to us again, it's another opportunity for your neighbors to make comments, and it would speak highly of your efforts if there were people that say, yeah, they've come and met with us, or I now know who this person is, or they've hired 2 people to be, traffic directors, or whatever it's going to be.
Right.
But it shows good faith on your part that you're trying to address those issues.
Right.
And that will, because we see this stuff on a regular basis when we do this, and we hear similar stories, but it's always, it will be helpful to you, I think, if you can show that you've met with people and you've heard them and that you're making a good faith effort to address their concerns.
Yeah, some of the people that spoke tonight, I've never met them before, so I think that's a very valid point.
Okay.
I think it would also be great if we can work through some of the things that we can actually like look at the buildings next time and talk about some of the design.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really interesting parts in this plan.
Right.
That I would really love to talk about in more detail, and maybe some of that's gonna wait till design review. But I think we just didn't even get to that part of it, and so I'm looking forward to that at the next meeting.
Okay.
Then I will move that we continue this to a date uncertain.
I'll
second.
We have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Bet. Just, please,
Thank you very much.
Hey, folks, we still have more meeting to come, so if you can keep it down as you're exiting, we'd appreciate it.
Tom,
Thank you.
That's my job. He's taking over my job again.
You got a shot. He's nipping at your heels.
I know, I'm a.
That hammer for a reason.
I know, I'm a permissive
It's
father.
not just against them.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please try and exit quietly. We have one more thing. We'll give them time to move out and get to the next issue. Okay. So that brings us to Planning Commission and Planning Department announcements, and go ahead. Vince.
So were you going to ask for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
planning
You
commission?
guys go first. I'm sorry.
I have something.
And we're going left to right this time.
Left to right.
Peggy goes first. Go ahead, Peggy. What do you got?
I would like to understand a little bit more about the whole filming situation here in Sierra Madre, since it seems to have a hot point there at Alverno. I don't know, and it seems not unrelated. I agree that I didn't really want to know his financials. I just kind of wanted him to think about it, because it seems
Yeah, we can
like
certainly
it's a balance here.
invite community services staff to give a brief overview at a future meeting regarding filming. I was told by community services staff that about...
Excuse me, please exit. Someone close the doors up there. Thank you.
Maybe we need some delineators.
Yeah.
that about 90% of the filming in town occurs at Alverno.
Yeah, that's my impression.
It seems to be a high intensity use area, and you know, for whatever reason why they're doing it, it's impacting the community. We should probably look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I definitely agree with you on that. But I think it's more than just the filming. It's also how TUPs work and where they're done. And I get the feeling that there's some of these uses that aren't getting TUPs. and there's a house in my neighborhood, for instance, that like every third Saturday there's a wedding, you know, and it's like, really? It's there? And so it's you just wonder how that process works.
They have nice neighbors.
But I think that considering that in light of the overarching process is important for us as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to balance these things if we don't understand how they work.
Yeah.
Right. Very good. Anybody else? Any announcements or anything coming up? No?
I want to commend all the people that have been working in Kirstein Court on the decorations and everything. The new Kirstein Court it was actually laid out thinking about all the holiday decorations, and so today a team put in the Festivus pole, so we're celebrating all elements of the holiday season.
I hear that there is a mystery unpaid intern that's been contributing efforts to the forces, and so I'm sure we should thank whoever that mystery unpaid intern is.
Well, there's a big committee of people who are doing that, so it's a nice community event, and it's nice to see all those people step up, so it's good.
That's nice. Very good. If nothing, go ahead, then I guess from the planning department.
So we do have a meeting on December 2nd. We're going to actually review a project again, a small addition to the Wisteria House, 505 North Hermosa.
Again? We just did that.
We just can't catch a break, can we?
How many times are we gonna go there? Huh? Wow.
Oh, boy.
And it looks like we might cancel our December 16th meeting, but I'll check back with you on the 2nd.
Okay.
Very good.
That's all I have.
Excellent. Then I will adjourn our meeting to December 2nd.
Second.
Thank you. Good night.